Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of where Issei came back and went against the Gremorys. After the group escapes from the Backrooms, Issei and his new friends all decided to deal with some issues back at Remnant. Once they were done, they took a small break. A few months after that, many of them settle in the Kuoh Academy and decide to study there. Which is when, one day, one of Issei's friends, Jade Arc, comes across a unique piece. Sensing that this piece was not of this world, and from another world, she decided to try to find its location, and eventually she wonders if she can bring more objects from that world. As she builds a machine to do so, she was almost ready to show its demonstration once it is ready. However, they were attacked by the Khaos Brigade, causing the machine to go haywire. This was a part of Rizevim's plan, who came to know about this machine. However, unknown to everyone, the machine's explosion summons something unexpected to their world. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into the part 1. The quote from Noble 6 and the multiverse is like, imagine the world you come from. Now imagine that there's a ton of others out there that differ in ways as simple as you being green, to ways so complex you wouldn't believe me if I told you. That's the multiverse. Go town, 8 a.m. The bright light appears in the park. As the light soon dies after a while, a brown-haired man along with several others look around as he speaks with a smile. Finally home. After so many months, there was another person next to him. He was a blonde-haired boy as he asks with a smile, so this is your world, Issei? The one identified as Issei looks at him and responded, indeed, John, welcome to Kuoh Town. Not big and surprising, but pretty decent if you want to know. John looked around seeing the place as another person then spoke up. She was also a blonde, but her hair was tied up in a loose ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs that ends in a spiral with taut bandages to keep it in place. I will be heading back to Kyoto. I need to check on the Lee lines and stabilize them. The woman spoke with a smile. Oh, and do send Kuno my regards, Yasaka-sama. The woman identified as Yasaka pouted as she responded, no. Call me Yasaka. We are way past formalities at this point. I guess it's in my nature. Yasaka sighed and gave a smile, either way. Yasaka crouched to his level and kissed Issei on the lips while 3 others gasped in jealousy. Issei had a red look on his face as Yasaka spoke with a blush. We'll meet again. Issei soon teleported back to Kyoto, leaving Issei in a daze. As the 3 people that gasped pouted in jealousy, John tapped his shoulder and spoke, Issei. You there? Alright, I am. Issei turned around to see the 3 people clearly showing jealousy as Issei spoke, girls, please calm down. The 3 girls looked at him with an annoyed look as Issei looked at the first girl who had long blonde hair tied into twin tails with large drill-like curls and blue ribbons keeping them in place. The front of her hair has several bangs hanging over her forehead with a V-shaped fringe hanging over the bridge of her nose. Ai-sama, we know Yusaku-sama has fallen for you, but that does not mean. The woman sighs, as Issei speaks in response, I know Ravel and I love the 3 of you as well. Issei looks at a long wavy purple hair she had in a hoe, it's sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead, and side bangs framing her face. You too, Ingvild. He then looked at another blonde-haired woman who had straight hair flowing from her head. She wore a headband which held her hair in place, and he was well Jade. The girls eventually calmed down as they knew Issei would love the trio regardless. As the woman soon spoke, she had gradient black into red hair. Her hair was long all the way till her abdomen. Anyways, let's all just head back. You all can have your talks once we head to Issei's place. Issei looked at the woman. It was his mentor as he responded, in deep summer. The now identified woman Summer smiled in response, as someone asked Issei. So Issei, what is your home like? The woman who spoke looked identical to Summer, except her hair was neck length. She had the same gradient black into red hair, like Summer did, as John responded. Even I am curious too, Ruby. John looked at the one identified Ruby as another blonde woman added her own words. She then spoke long, thick, wavy, bright, golden hair that fades to pale gold at the tips with a cowlick sticking out at the top. This includes your world as well, a world without Grim or even huntresses. Even I also want to see this world more. Issei looked at the trio as he spoke to them. I will soon contact the folks back at home, Yan, but first let me lead you to my place. The now identified Yan nodded in agreement as they all started to walk towards where Issei was leading them. They continued to walk for a while as Issei started to look down. Envold noticed this and spoke. What's the matter, Ice? Issei looked at her and sighed. I am going to see her, after a very long time, years even. I don't know how she would react. You know she was happy to talk to you. Remember in level 3999 where we all had a talk with her and Azazel, where you introduced us to her, almost everyone in our group remember. Issei looked at her and nodded. The only people that weren't present in the group were Naofumi, Raphtalia and Heinz, all of whom were in their own worlds. Just have a talk to her, and everything will go well, Issei. John added his own words as the rest of the group agreed. Issei nodded and spoke. I will give it a shot. The group managed to walk towards the Hayadu residence as everyone minus Issei and Ravel were shocked by what they were seeing. They never knew Issei lived in a model house as Jade asked incredulously. Why you live here? Jade and John were surprised. Sure, they had compounds, but Issei's, it was a model house, almost on par with the elders, not something they would normally live in. Yep, I will make it short. You see, our house was not like this. It was a regular normal-looking house that you would come across in a town or small city. Eventually, after the Gremory girls decided to live here, my house was turned into what you are seeing today. Issei soon walked inside the place and turned back to his friends. Come on in. I doubt we should keep them waiting. Issei spoke with a smile as his friends all came in as they entered the courtyard of their room. Issei could see a brown-haired woman that had come outside to experience the sunlight as she stretched in the ground. She looked up to see it was a good day as she seemed to be waiting for someone. Issei immediately recognized who the woman was. John and the others also soon joined in as even they also recognized the woman in front of them as well. Issei soon walked forward and called out. The now identified Mary looked at the ones that had shown up as Issei waved at his older sister. She looked to see her little brother alive and well. She teared up after seeing him for years as she rushed towards Issei and gave him a bone-crushing hug as Issei remained in complete stasis, unable to move. Oh, how I missed you, little brother. I am so sorry that your one Issei couldn't be there for you when you needed me. Issei returned the hug with whatever move area he had as he calmed his older sister down. None of the others said a thing as they knew how close the two siblings were even after remaining out for so long. Soon enough, Mary and Issei split up as she turns around and Issei speaks. I also need to apologize for my words, yours. Mary cuts him off and speaks with an annoyed tone. Oh dear, I have already forgiven you a long time back. Issei rubs his head and speaks. I guess you are right. So where is Mom and Dad? They don't know you are back. Yesterday's battle must be grueling, right? Fighting against Azrael. Issei and the group knew who she was talking about. Azrael, also known as the Redacted Watcher, was the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced, a low god class being that Issei faced, and if it was not for Great Red assisting him, they would have lost or worse been killed. Though say hi to Dragon Bell. Issei revealed his boosted gear with Dragon Bell greeting Mary. Greetings, you must be Issei's older sister. It is finally nice to meet you in person. Mary smiled in response as Bell soon responded. I never knew Ice had an older sister. It is good to meet you in person. It is nice to meet the two of you as well, Drag Bell. Mary responded happily, knowing the two of them were mentioned by Issei when he had talked to her in level 3999, as Mary then spoke. Mom and Dad are waiting for you. Mary looked at Issei and noticed some people missing, as she asked, where are Rex, Music Man, Naofumi, Raphtalia and Heinz? Naofumi and Raphtalia returned to their own world of Melromark, while Heinz stayed back in the Backrooms to meet his family. Mary nodded in understanding as Issei then continued, speaking of Rex and Music Man, here they are. Issei opened his backpack which he was wearing. It was a travel backpack. As he opened it, two figures came out. The first seemed to be a doll-like figurine with hair, looked up and exclaimed with happiness, Hey there, I am Rex. Rex the doll face. Mary smiled in response while rubbing his head. Nice to meet you too, Rex. Soon enough another figure came out pushing from the same space of the bag. She saw an animatronic with an extremely static facial expression. He has 2 large black eyes, purple rosy cheeks, a large pink nose, 2 pink eyebrows, a purple cleft chin, and a long row of teeth. He has 6 segmented, jointed legs resembling the legs of a spider, which are in turn attached to a spherical body. His pink and white striped torso contains a speaker. He also holds a symbol in each of his hands and wears a striped black top hat. The animatronic remained silent as Issei spoke with a sweat drop. He does not speak a lot. He is a bit shy. Oh, okay. Hello, Music Man. Music Man nodded to Mary's words and went inside the bag. Rex climbed on Issei's shoulder as Issei closed his backpack. As Issei explained, I found this guy after our mission to find the glitched objects. A certain sorcerer controlled him to fight against us, and we managed to defeat this guy, and he joined our party soon enough. Issei remembered on how he, Jade, Ingvild, Ravel and Yasaka was sent for a mission alongside Hanzo Hasashi along with a certain dragon slayer and a changed magic female user. They separated paths and they went their own direction. They had not seen them for a while after that. They again met up in level 3999 along with 2 others, and after defeating the sorcerers Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, they stayed back to destabilize the Backrooms since the Watcher triggered a collision course in the Backrooms. They eventually parted ways as the 2 wanted to leave a bit early since they were feeling homesick, while Lake and his group decided to stay with those from MEG a little longer since they did a lot for him. However, the 4 promised to meet again sometime in the future if they can. They left from the mythical level, the Promised Land, while Issei and his group along with those from MEG decided to rest after the battle against the Watcher. Speaking of the Watcher, before the 4 left the place, Issei and his group headed to fight against the Watcher who had managed to escape to this world, the DXD world. Issei did manage to warn the people of his world that the Watcher is coming, but to prepare for an attack would take time, and that was what they did not have. The Watcher headed to the heaven as he tried to enter without a problem by breaking the barrier using liquid pain concoction. As Issei reached the location, he saw 2 angels already critically injured as one of them gives him a halo. He entered the area as he saw the heaven completely in ruin, as he was almost about to kill the 4 seraphs as Issei came to fight. But even with his semblance dragon furs, he stood no chance against him. Even with his group assisting them, none of them could fight against him, let alone defeat him. That was until Great Red contacted him and offered him power and a new body to defeat the Watcher, he temporarily combining with Issei, unlocking a new form powerful enough to not only defeat the Watcher, but it was only temporary. He soon split up from him after the Watcher's defeat and death. The Dragon of Dreams did inform him that this power can be achieved the more he trained, since it did technically belong to him now. They headed back to the ones in the Backrooms after their defeat, before promising to come after saying some goodbyes to the friends they made in their place. This even included the 4 mentioned prior, as well as those from MEG, and some of their group members like Heinz, Naofumi and Raftalia. Now at present time, Mary decided to call her parents, who were overjoyed and ecstatic to see Issei return, as Issei are united with his parents. They came to know of Issei's truth, and despite who he is, and what he had become, my baby boy is back. Son, it's so great to see you well and alive, both Mickey and Goro exclaimed with happiness while embracing Issei, who returned their embrace. John was a bit envious of Issei's parents. They were good and loving parents, unlike his, who abandoned and disowned him without a second thought for just mere papers. However, someone held his hand as she spoke. You shouldn't think about them. John looked at the one who spoke. The person was Yang, someone who had fallen for him. As John nodded, he shouldn't think about him and think about meeting those that cared for him. After splitting up, Issei soon introduced the rest of his group to his parents, including Drake and Belle, who were in his boosted gear. While they were skeptical of the 2 beings inside the boosted gear, they happily greeted them, and one by one they told about his past. Needless to say, the Hayde family minus were livid at how John was treated and accepted John into their home, much to his happiness. Additionally, even girls were accepted into the house, of course. That came with a little test for both Jade and Ingvild, since they only knew Ravel and not the other 2. The others were also accepted, and they all decided to settle down and chat with. So Issei, how was your journey in the Backrooms? Issei thought for a moment. As he spoke, can you bring Lord Michael, Cert 6-9, Graphene and Azazel Sensei? Mary walked forward and spoke. Allow me to do it. Mary spoke as she contacted the forementioned, and as soon as was mentioned, they rushed to his place as Graphia embraced him. As soon as Cercichus teleported her, she saw him as a little brother, and it was no secret. After splitting up, as Gracias spoke while sniffling, "It's good to have you back." Issei looked at her and nodded with a smile, as Issei then recounted his journey in the backrooms, as he told them almost every detail. First he told his encounter with those from MEG, meeting Johnny Cage and Jackson Briggs, them heading out as they soon met up with John, Ruby and Yang, fighting partygoers and heading to level 4 and level 5. Meeting up with Raphtalia and Naofumi. Eventually, they headed to level 6 and level 7 where they met Ingvild, and then level 9 where Issei unlocked his semblance, something they were aware of, and finally reaching level 11 where they stay for a while, training for their fight against some beings. On a mission, they meet Yasaka in level 666 before heading to level 632, where they had their first run-in with the Watcher. They managed to head back to level 11, and on a different mission comprising with the half of a group, they headed to some more levels before reaching the broken level, and they reached the malls of level 33, where they encountered Music Man in a different form, thanks to Shang Tsung. John had a different mission along with his own group. He was dealing with level 505 before eventually having to deal with Quan Chi, who revived someone that was MEG's enemy as they managed to defeat her as well. Once they were done, they continued training as they all head to the Dark Metro, eventually heading to level 6.1 where Jade managed to confess to his aid as he took her on a date as they eventually left from the location. They were suggested to head to level 36, after which they headed to level 922-337-203-685-4756, and eventually level 922-337-203-685-4775807. There they had a run-in with another of Watcher's goons, the immortal Jairus, who was impossible to beat. However, when Haynes suggested him to throw him in the void, which they did, they reached the end, and eventually level 3999 as they traveled to different levels to complete their goals before heading home. But not all were able to complete. Some were captured by their enemies who forced the group to fight in their twisted tournament, which made them fight against their old foes that they had defeated minus Jairus, who was still alive but trapped in the void. They eventually won before facing the deadly alliance of Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. They were able to defeat them as well and kill them. However, the Watcher escaped from there and headed to heaven. After that, every leader and angel in heaven knew what happened, minus Irina, who was not there. Issei also told them about their pasts as many were livid at what happened to John, with Graphia and Sergichus viewing the Arch clan as a disgraceful family. They also felt sad for what happened to Ingvild's father, thanks to the old Satan faction. He also informed them about where Yasaka, Naofumi, Raphtalia and Heinz were, making them understand this properly. I see. That must have been quite the journey for all of you. Sergichus spoke with a deep thought. He intently listened to everything that Issei had spoken to him as he responded. Indeed it was. It was quite the journey for me. And Jade, I once again apologize for what Rainer and her group did to you. Azazel spoke with an apologetic tone, as Jade shakes her head and spoke. It's all right, Azazel. You needn't worry for their mistakes. If anything, she got what was coming for them. As is all said in relief as Issei asked to Michael, so how is heaven? We are repairing it right now, Issei-kun. Had it not been for you and your team, heaven would have been in a much worse state, thanks to what my former brother did. Michael's tone was filled with gratitude. However, he was unaware that a certain angel was having a crush on him, especially after Issei saved her against the Watcher. That is good to hear. Issei spoke with a sigh, as he took a deep breath and asked, The house seems empty. Where are the rest of the guests? They are at the academy. Why do you ask? Mary responded, to which Issei shook his head and responded, No was expecting her and her entourage of spoiled brats to make a scene. I need to make some things very clear to her after all. Ironically, in both my world I also have a redhead that ruined me as well. It is uncanny that both me and Issei suffered a similar situation. John spoke with a tone of annoyance as Sergiches asked, Pernicos, right? Yes, per. If she annoys me, I will put her in her place as well. Sergiches, Grafia, Michael and Azazel understood this as well. They did not want to deal with her as well since she clearly betrayed him. She was a traitor in their eyes, as Grafia asked respectfully. John Somnajon cuts him off and speaks, Just call me John, Grafia. Very well, John, may I ask, why did your clan deem you as unworthy to train? Especially when you clearly survived the living hell known as Backrooms? John took a deep breath and was about to speak, as he continued, To put it in short, I never showed any talent, and as a result my parents did not see me to be trained. Hell, they did not even unlock my aura in any way. They wanted me to remain in their house forever, but I was not that way. I headed to Beacon using fake transcripts and then, well, once they were found out, my life was a living hell. We were told that we were doing it to protect our little brother. Jade added her own words, as she continued while shaking her head, That was until I saw how stupid and foolish my family's decision was to not train my brother. It's a shame that my other sisters failed to see this though. Jade looked down in sadness as Issei kept his hand on her while calming her down. He then spoke. And I'll be honest, in a world where Grim, or in John's case, clan's enemies are literally on the front door knocking to kill you, I just saw them as a bunch of fools. Issei's words made the elderly people understand what Issei was trying to convey. They now knew why John hated the Arc clan, and they did not blame him for his hatred. They were about to talk on the Arc clan when a magic circle showed up as Issei and the others looked at the magic circle. Those from the DxD world glared at who was going to show up, as it was none other than Rias and her peerage, comprising of Rias herself, Aquino, Kaneko, Yudo, Asia, Gasper, and 2 others. The first was described to be a pink-haired girl, with light red eyes, while the second girl was a brunette with brown eyes. They were Kadis and Murayama respectively. Mary glared at the 2 girls with hatred in her eyes. She knew what they did to her brother, beating him to death multiple times. Rias tried to rush towards Issei, however Issei brought out a 12-gauge shotgun aimed at her as she spoke with horror. "Why ice?" Issei responded with a cold tone. "1. To you, it is Haidu, and I don't think you are so familiar with me in any way. 2. I am no longer your pawn, remember." Rias flinched upon Issei's cold tone as Aikano added in response, "Issei, can't you just let it go? It ain't easy to forget and let it go after all the insulting things to say to Issei. I clearly remember you calling him a brainless dildo." Envold countered Aikino angrily as Jade added, "You shouldn't even be near my eyes. You have lost the right, especially when you tried to demand an apology after he defended himself. Be glad he did not put you all in your places." Jade and Envold's words made the girls angry while Yudo frowned looking at the girls. They were still partially unrepentant. Ravel then responded, "And don't even get me started on the no-reason abuse that Kaneko used to do on Issei, along with the 2 Kendo girls. Kaneko and the 2 Kendo girls get livid however Issei spoke. If you have any other reason, go back to your club Rias and take them with you." Rias looked at Issei and spoke angrily, "This is my house too, Issei, and you will once again become my pawn." Rathia and Mary were about to say, but Sursuka stopped the girls, as he pointed at Issei, knowing that he knows how to deal with her. They could see Issei and his group along with his parents and Azazel getting angry. The latter 3 were also disappointed in the grills. Issei then spoke, "I ain't gonna return as a pawn to a spoiled callous for Ash, overconfident and unrepentant princess who thinks she owns me just because she revived me as a devil. Which was something I never asked. Keep that in mind." Rias growled, unfortunately, letting her spoiled nature take over as she then demanded, "Then I demand a rating game between you and the rest of my team. Let's see if you survive this." Issei looked unamused at the girls. He could see them all having a confident look, thinking that they would beat Issei, minus Kiba who looked in disbelief. As Issei asked Kiba, "You also want to fight, Kiba?" "I don't have a choice." Issei sighed in disbelief as he spoke, "Alright then." Issei looked at Sergiches and Grafia, who were not happy with the Gremorys peerage's attitude. As Grafia spoke, "I'll prepare an artificial dimension." "So if you win, you want me to join you, right?" Rias and her peerage nodded as Issei spoke, "But if I win, will you do anything?" Anything you want. Issei smiled in response as the girls knew what he wanted, and they knew that he would still be perverted and may want to do something like that. However, Issei had different intentions. He looked at the three leaders who sighed in agreement. Mickey tried to speak. As Issei spoke, I got this, Mom, just watch me fight. Marry me, cover my parents, 'cause it ain't going to be pretty. Mary understood as his parents wondered what Issei had planned. However, before Issei could continue, someone from the group spoke up. Who says you are fighting against them alone? Issei and everyone turned around to see Ingvild speaking as she walked forward and spoke. I will join in the battle as well. That makes two of us. John added his own words. He would love to take on the knight of their group. Summer then added, now what kind of a mentor would I be if I can't help my student? I will aid as well. I always loved a good fight, and I prefer to join as well. Jan spoke with an excited tone as she clenched her fists, letting her love for fights take control for once. Jade then spoke, I will aid Issei and my friends for this fight as well, count me in. I will join too. I won't let Issei-sama work for those that he does not like. Ravel added her own words of anger, remembering on how Issei was treated. Ruby then responded, I am in too, would love to teach a lesson to those who treated Issei badly. Repenter acute Dolphy spoke, as it was revealed to be Rex, who was in a bloodlust state since he became Issei's familiar. He also came to know of Issei's past, as Issei had told him. With Music Man roaring with anger, he was more than happy to join the fight as well. Rias and her peerage were now concerned. Fighting Issei was one thing, but fighting the others was really something. They did not know how to deal with all of them at once. The only ones that knew of some of the characters' capabilities were Azazel and Mary, and they knew that some of them have some peculiar abilities as well, which can deal massive damage to them as well. Despite this, the older residents and guests were happy that Issei found people that would stand by his side at all costs. Oh, and that reminds me, Sergiches then spoke, gathering everyone's attention. Once this is done, I will be talking to his and his peerage about something important. Rias tried to speak, however, Sergiches cuts her off. Not a word, and I don't want to hear that is your pawn. He no longer is. Your spoiled attitude is the reason why Is was driven away. Let this hopefully be a lesson to you, Rias Gremory. Rias was horrified that her brother still does not want to work with her. As Graphia spoke, the dimension is ready, all of you will be teleported. The fighters nodded as they were teleported with Sergiches speaking, this is not going to end well. No, it is going to end with Rias critically injured. I'd say bring some Phoenix tears if you want her to survive. Mary added her own words as Sergiches nodded and teleported to get some Phoenix tears. Scene change. Artificial Hayato residence, 9:30 a.m. Issei was in his room along with the rest of his group. It was huge enough to take up all of them at once. It contains a new model flat-screen TV and the latest kinds of game consoles. A king-size bed's covered by drapes. So this is your room. It's even bigger than mine. John commented as he looked around to see what all is there inside his room, surprised to see this. Even the others were surprised by this. As Issei spoke, even your rooms may be as big, but for now let's focus on the game. Anyways, Summer-sensei, can you use one of your plants to create a hearing planet? Summer nodded with a smile as she used her Summer Maiden powers. Almost all of Issei's group knew about Ashban and his Shadow War, as she created 2 herring cups, allowing them to hear their plan. Summer first tried to locate their base, and she eventually found out that they were located in the rooftop where they were discussing on their plans. They heard the girls speak and it infuriated them, especially Issei. It seems like Issei-senpai has gotten that fried chicken and those 2 girls to fight against us. He is the worst like always. Kaneko spoke as Ravel. Jade and Ingvild got irritated by Kaneko's tone, as Akino added. And even that black-haired girl and that older reddish-black-haired girl, I think they even love him. That blonde boy is just here for keeps. This angered John, Ruby, Summer and Yang, all of whom were gritting their teeth in anger. They joined him willingly. Issei was livid by how his best friend was being talked, as Rias continued. Girls, let's get Ice on our side once again. We will also deal with that whore that has taken my Ice away from us. Issei was now livid. He looked at Jade, who was shaking with anger. He also noticed John clenching his fists with anger. They soon began their planning, as Issei and the others knew about the trap system they were going to do. Issei soon spoke. We will act upon them when they least expect us, isolating them and taking them on one by one. I will be the one to lead this and deal with Rias Gremory herself. Yang, can you deal with Kaneko, take Music Man with you? Yang grinned in response as she spoke. Yeah, leave it to me, I will take care of the Queen Ice. Ingvald spoke with a smile as Issei nodded. John then added, me and Ruby will deal with Zenobia and Kiba. Be careful, Zenobia and Kiba may have become stronger. John and Ruby nodded in understanding. As John spoke, my telekinesis should be able to deal with Zenobia and possibly immobilize her, and Ruby could eliminate her quickly. My speed and semblance have become stronger. I can assist you against her. Yang pouted in jealousy as she couldn't fight with John, but she reeled it in. Issei then looked at Music Man and commanded, don't hold back. Music Man clapped in joy in response as he looked at Jade and Revel. You two will be dealing with Asia and Gasper. Keep in mind the latter can stop time, and I highly doubt if Asia is able to use Fafnir properly. And Jade. You can use that. Jade widened her eyes as she responded with a smile. This will be too easy then. Alright everyone, let's head out and deal with Rias Gremory and her peerage. Issei encouraged his team, and they all agreed in response. Scene change. Rias and her peerage were discussing on how they will deal with Issei, as they were about to say. Suddenly, the flowers near them started to bloom all of a sudden. As Kaneko's ears lit up, she then shouted. Everyone we need to Kaneko shouted. But it was too late. The flower's explosion allowed a dust and pollen field to be generated which obscured their view. This was Summer's doing, who manipulated her plants using her maiden powers to do so. Their vision was reduced as Kaneko tried to use her ears to see where they are going to attack. However, as she was about to warn, someone generated a very loud noise disrupting her. Ah! Kaneko held her ear in pain. Rias was about to react. However, Issei ambushed her and took her away before anyone could react. Ingvald did the same with Akino, and John dragged Kiba and Zenobia away from the group. Kaneko, Gasper, Asia, Kadus and Murayama remain. They looked around to see their 4 pieces are missing including the king. As they looked to see Summer, Yang, Jade, Music Man and Revel. I will take the kendo pawns, you girls know who you need to take on, right? The girls nodded in understanding as Revel and Jade went after Gasper and Asia. Yang and Music Man hounded over Kaneko, while Summer faced against the 2 kendo girls since they knew Rosways was not here, which meant that they are replacements for Issei. It really is disappointing that you 2 are the ones I would be dealing with. Summer spoke with disappointment knowing the 2 of them were responsible for hurting her student. Why do you support the good-for-nothing pervert? All he does is peep while we are changing. Summer wanted to retort, however Murayama added, yeah, if anything you should be working for Rias-sama. Yes, he peeped, but he is anything but good for nothing. He is the one that led us back home, and I have stayed with him for months, and at this point he is not even a pervert. Summer retorted angrily, how dare they insult her student, and how blind they are to what they have become, as she continued, and like Issei said, I would never work for someone so spoiled, someone who does not respect me, my daughters, my student or my friend. From what I hear, she was completely apathetic to his situation, and did not even help him in any way. She even insulted and demanded an apology, and outright threatened to make things worse. She is beyond pathetic. He deserved that good-for-nothing pervert. I don't understand why are you all even working or defending him. Caddis declared angrily as Murayama agreed. However, Summer has had enough. Even the others present that were fighting for him were angered by this. However, they decided to deal with their opponents. You have sealed your fates. Before the girls could react to respond, Summer had her weapon sundered rose which had blood on it. She was on the other side as blood gushed out from the girls' wounds. They screamed in pain as a green light started to glow, signaling their elimination. DuPonts of Rias Gremory has been eliminated, Grafia announced as Summer looked at the Gremory peerage who was struggling against their opponents. Meanwhile, Jade and Revel were dealing with Gasper and Asia, as Jade brought a small red dagger that she had stored in her pocket, which was a purple earring on her left ear. All of the characters have a pocket each meant for their usage, as the dagger emanated with energy. This is the Welsh dagger. That dagger. Asia spoke with concern as Gasper asked, Asia senpai, what is that? You're about to find out, vampire. Jade spoke with anger, as she looked at Ravel, leave the transversite vampire to me, you hold off Asia till then. Leave it to me. Asia was pale upon this, she tried to defend herself since she was unable to bring out Fafnir, but Ravel burns her with ease, she shouts in pain as a green light envelopes her. She was not even able to bring out Rays to fight for her. One bishop of Rias Gremory has been eliminated. Gasper became pale upon this, however before he could react, Jade shouted, Dragon cut. Esper had to dodge that. Once he evaded, he saw Jade speak. You see, Issei is not the only one that can use Welsh Dragon's power. I can also use it as well. Jade then raised her dagger as she exclaimed, Balance Breaker. Welsh Wyvern Balance Breaker. Jade gained her own armor version of the scale mail, however it was weaker than Issei's Balance Breaker. Gasper looked at Jade with worry, as she spoke, let's see if you can win. Although much weaker than Issei's Balance Breaker, it is still enough to deal with him. Jade thought seriously as she continued, although his time stops are something that I should deal with. Jade. Can you hear me? Dreg spoke to Jade using the connection to the dagger as she spoke, loud and clear. How much time do I have in this armor? Jade asked, to which Dreg responded, 5 minutes. That is all I need. Jade spoke with a smile as she dashed towards him ready to end this quickly. As Gasper closed his eyes and defended himself, Jade stopped just before her fists reached Gasper and asked, Aren't you going to defend yourself? I don't want to fight. Jade internally sighed. She knew of Gasper being timid and shy, but without Issei, he must have become even worse. Issei was right about Rias being completely spoiled, and without Issei, some pieces are in complete disarray. Look, Gasper, Issei told me about you. You are clearly conflicted between your love for your former older brother figure and your loyalty to your master, but it is time for you to set things right, to stand up for what you believe is right. Gasper looked up at Jade. She was right. Rias was not the right person to deal with someone like Gasper, but Issei was able to do it as he saw Jade speak. Think about it while you are in the infirmary. I'll make this quick. Jade unleashed a dragon cut, a weaker version of dragon shot to eliminate, as a bright green light was released from him, eliminating him as well. Second Bishop of Rias Gremory has been eliminated. Jade soon sighed as she looked at Ravel, who was flying down towards Ravel as she spoke. He did not even try to fight. Not at all. Jade removed her balance breaker. As she looked at Gasper, there was no reason for him to fight. Seems like Rias is not only a spoiled brat, but also she never tried to help Gasper without Issei. Like she should be the one to help her peerage, not Issei. Jade sighs in response as she looked at the final fight between Music Man and Yang against Kaneko. As Music Man was constantly releasing loud music, it was also in a different form called DJ Music Man, is a giant animatronic whose whole body structure has been completely revamped. Now much more reminiscent to a spider than his previous counterpart. His textures on his face are also changed, with his eyebrows and cheeks being a light blue instead of purple and pink. He seems to lack the pink stripes on the sides of his face, and instead of 2 pink spots on his chin, he has a single light blue stripe. His upper row of teeth have some black teeth or chips, evoking the appearance of a keyboard. Instead of his signature symbols, he wears red and yellow headphones on his head. DJ Music Man's black hat also has a yellow stripe instead of a white one. DJ Music Man walks on all 6 of his limbs, which all have the white gloves the regular Music Man has on his hands. Music Man was constantly released sonic booms as Kaneko struggled to even move due to the immense noise as she held her ears in agony, and whenever she used senjutsu it was converted into kinetic energy, as it was reflected back at Kaneko, damaging her. You must be surprised by how I am able to absorb your senjutsu flames, right? Yang exclaimed with pride as she speaks. My semblance allows me to absorb kinetic energy from anything, mostly blows and flame magic. The latter was due to my training with a certain cryomancer and my stepmother Summer Rose, who taught me new ways how to use my semblance. This is one of them. And thanks to DJ Music Man, you are unable to even fight properly, aren't you? An echo glared at him as Yang shook her head and spoke. Old me would have loved to beat you to death, but I will make this quick. Yang dashed towards her, with her eyes being red, and her hair turns bright yellow with burning. She proceeded to unleash a fist slam and crushed her immediately. It created a tremor as Kaneko was sent flying. She crashed to the wall. She tried to get up as Yang followed with another punch, sending her below some floors, taking severe damage as the rubble fell on her. Eventually her body glowed as she was defeated. Yang then released the remaining excess of the Senjutsu kinetic energy inside of her, since she was not sure how her body would react to this unknown energy. She may be familiar with it thanks to Issei, but even she did not want to take a risk about it. DJ Music Man crawled towards her and spoke. "We did it." DJ Music Man reverted to his miniature self and clapped using his cymbals, making a huge metallic sound as an announcement was made. The Rook of Rios Gremory has been eliminated. Yang and Music Man were looking at the others who had defeated their enemy. They all wondered how the others were doing. Scene change. The audience were surprised by Jade's Welsh dagger as they were intrigued by what they were witnessing. Sergius frowned seeing how most of her pieces were acting towards Issei, and was angry at how little they know of him despite their cold actions towards him. Mary gritted her teeth in anger seeing how much they see him as nothing short of a pervert except Kiba and Gasper, both of whom remained quiet. Earlier, Sergius had returned with the Phoenix Tears knowing that he would be needing it. They were also amazed by Music Man's power to use sound to completely disrupt a Yao Kai's super-sensitive hearing, making it harder for Kaneko to use her powers as Sergius spoke. "So this is the power of Issei's team, I am amazed." Sergius spoke with intrigue as Azazel looked at the Welsh dagger with interest. He remembered her asking for blueprints for the sacred gear research, which made her create a sacred gear. However, he did notice a lot of changes can be made to the gear to improve its efficiency. He did notice a lot of openings in her scale mail which needed to be worked on. Indeed, and these are not even the strongest members of the team. I have a feeling that we will be seeing the stronger ones fight soon enough, including Ys. Azazel spoke with intrigue, since he still has Ruby, John, and Ingvold's fight left against their opponents, as Sergius spoke with a sigh. If only she learned from her mistake, she would be with Azazel right now. Mary shook her head and responded, "I understand, but this is her choice. Let's see if she learns or she remains the same or changes." "I have to agree, and I hate the fact that Asia has become like them." Goro spoke with sadness as Mickey added her own words. "She looks up to Rias, and this is how she became the way she is. I wonder what Issei will ask the girls though, although I have a feeling on what he may ask since they see him as a pervert." Mary added with a sigh as she continued, "Worse, two of her pawns were the ones that beat Issei daily in Kuoh." Baru and Mickey angrily glared at Katas and Murayama for that. They neither complained to the principal, or even the teachers. The only reason the student council and the others come to know is because of the actions of the perverted trio were well known at the academy. Not to mention, what they did was verbal assault, and sometimes Issei was even beaten to near death, but only a few helped him. Why? Because he is a pervert. I am honestly glad his teacher put those two girls in his place, because if I get my hands on them, they would think twice before messing with my brother. Mary spoke with an evil glint as her parents calmed her down. She was livid that Rias had the audacity to bring the girls here. Mary, out of anger, drove the girls out of this place, not caring for what Rias had to say, as she easily scared her without a problem ever since she came back to her home. Meanwhile, Sergius, as Izalan and Michael were nervous. An older sister's wrath is not someone you want to experience, while Graphia gave a small smile, knowing that she may have done the same if she was in her situation. Scene change. Yudo and Zenobia were in a four-way clash against their opponents John and Ruby, with Zenobia trying her best to deal damage to John, but was always stopped by an invisible force. John was in his Ventus armor, which was a silver armor with a black helmet covering his face. She once again tried charging towards John only for him to respond by slamming her to a nearby wall. As Yudo tried to rush towards her, he was ambushed by Ruby's side. They were in the first floor of the Haida residence. Akiba was no joke, he was the only one that was training. He was able to keep up with Ruby, as he constantly used sword birth to keep her in check. Ruby had difficulty getting close, as she had a feeling that their fight would extend for much longer. Meanwhile, John was in his Ventus armor, as 3 aura crystals charged at the center. While Zenobia watched helplessly, John then spoke. You know told some really interesting things about you and that orange pig-tailed girl known as Irina, especially when you called him a fool and a moron for not recognizing Ria's feelings when it was made clear that must call him president. Then you even tried to do the deed with Issei, just because he is the Red Dragon Emperor. Really goes to show what kind of a character you are. Zenobia gritted her teeth angrily. The boy in front of her was not even trying to fight her in any way. Shut up. John shook his head and spoke seriously. What kind of a friend are you and Irina if you do such kinds of things? Really disappointing. No wonder Issei does not love either of you. I said shut up. Zenobia blindly charged towards John as he internally smirked. It was all too easy to provoke her. The aura crystals charged in front of him and unleashed a shotlock beam, which was a blue-silvery beam that was aimed at her. Zenobia looked horrified and she had no time to dodge as she took a direct hit, completely destroying her. She fell down with a thud, as her clothing was completely destroyed, with her breasts and some of her flesh being seen. She was burnt completely as John spoke coldly. You are a fool to charge at me like this, blindly. The shotlock beam is strong enough to disintegrate partygoers and bone thieves. You are lucky to have survived the attack. John walked away as Zenobia soon glowed green as she groaned even more in pain as Grafia announced. One knight of Rias Gremory has been eliminated. Kiba was surprised by this as Ruby unleashed a strike causing Kiba to be grazed in his cheek. Your skill with the scythe is commendable. Kiba complimented Ruby as she twirled in response. John soon joined Kiba as he looked at him and spoke. So you must be pretty boy, someone who supported Rias without hesitation. Yeah? I do regret supporting her so blindly. John shook his head and responded, you screwed up. At least you were not that insulting as opposed to Akino, who literally called him a brainless dildo. Looking back, I should have been more supportive. Either way, regretting won't change anything. Mine and Issei's relationship is trained. Nothing can happen. John shook his head and responded again, you shouldn't think that. You are your own person and can make your own choices, like Issei did. You need to stand up to Rias. Even if she regrets, she fails to see what she has done wrong, and I don't think you should be with someone like her. The girls are blinded by loyalty, but you don't seem to be, considering you seem a bit regretful, and I doubt you want to say in Rias' peerage, right? Kiba nodded in response as he spoke. No, I do not. Kiba sighs as he speaks. But I doubt I can even talk considering you know Rias. John and Ruby gave a frustrated sigh as Ruby spoke. Well, you can either fight or back out. The choice is yours. The duo could clearly see the conflict in the Gremory Knight's eyes. He clearly did not want to fight, but his oath prevented this. He had to fight. He puts his sword forward as Ruby speaks. Should we end this? I fear so. Let's make this quick. John spoke with a sigh as the duo dashed at bright speeds and performed 2 quick slashes aimed at Kiba's chest, easily eliminating him from the fight. Kiba's conflict prevented him from fighting for much longer, as the duo looked at him disappearing into a green glow. Second Knight of Rias Gremory has been eliminated. Grafia announced as John deployed his armor returning to his normal self, leaving only Ingvald and Issei's fights remaining. John restored his aura using his semblance aura amplification. Scene change. Ingvald and Akeno were fighting in the 6th floor of the meeting room of the residence as Akeno was gritting her teeth in frustration. Ingvald had not taken a single damage from any of the attacks. Issei told me some really interesting things about you. The fact that you and Rias slept with Issei naked on a daily basis, teasing him, making his feelings even more complicated. But not even once you saw why he is suffering, didn't you? Ingvald spoke with anger in her voice as Akeno looked away. She saw Ingvald had commanded some more water magic at her, causing her to fly in the air. Additionally, Ingvald was limiting her chances of movement as she was a capable fighter underwater. While Okino was not, she could shock Okino, but Ingvald was not giving her time to do so. She released her 8 wings into the air, shocking Okino, as she asked, who even are you? Are you also a devil? Indeed, a half-devil to be precise. My name is Ingvald Leviathan, the descendant of Satan Leviathan. It is not a pleasure to meet you. Akino became wide-eyed upon this revelation as she looked at Ingvald out of fear. She is one of Issei's allies, that means she is done for. It was no wonder Ingvald was able to keep up with her, as she was able to block so many of her attacks like it was nothing. It's time to end this. I am going to make you regret calling Issei a brainless dildo and having the audacity to make him apologize for your mistake. Ingvald declared angrily as she shouted, "Sea Serpent of the End." Ingvald unleashed a snake-shaped dragon composed of water aimed at Akino. She tried to defend herself with her magic circle. Additionally, her body also glowed with a bright lavender aura as she started to sing, which was her using her semblance iron song to strengthen her own abilities. Each of Issei's group has a semblance of their own, with Ingvald, Yang and John displaying theirs. The dragon became even more stronger and ferocious. Ingvald commanded the dragon to attack Akino at the cost of almost shattering her aura. Her semblance was quite aura-draining. The dragon completely engulfed Akino. She tried to protect herself with the barriers, however, it was too late, and sadly the dragon defeated the last of Akino's strength as she was out cold, falling into the water present in the flooded room. Ingvald looked at her coldly and spoke, "You are no different than Raynor. Queen of the Gremory peerage has been eliminated," Grafia announced as only one member was left. Ingvald soon decided to teleport beside her Assy. She knew the others must have finished their battles as she heard their announcement beforehand, meaning only one fight was left. Scene change. There is a clear power difference between Group and Rias's peerage. Michael commented as he noticed that none of Group members have been eliminated. The Backrooms have made them much stronger. Indeed, and worse, Rias and her peerage are barely training. Thanks to guilt. And I don't even think that they will win against Sayerg later on with a progress like this, let alone Issei. Sergiches commented as Azazel spoke. So what should we do about the match? I doubt we can postpone it any longer. And does Sayerg know about this? Sergiches responds yes, and he seemed disappointed, but he hopes that Issei could have a match later on. The match will go on regardless. I wonder how strong Issei's semblance Dragifers will be against Rias Gremory. Sergiches spoke with curiosity as Azazel responded, "It is pretty strong from what I heard. It was one of the things instrumental in the Watcher's defeat." Sergiches nodded in understanding as the Haida family were also excited for the final fight as well. They watched the scene with great interest. Scene change. Seriously, Rias, is that the best you can come up with? I am disappointed. Issei spoke with a mocking tone. As Rias clenched her fists in anger and frustration, she looked at Issei. The two were fighting in the first basement floor. Issei was able to ambush them and take her all the way down where they were fighting. Earlier, they had heard of all her pieces being defeated with Issei shaking his head and speaking, "Oh, Rias, Rias, Rias." Issei remembered on how he was easily evading the power of destruction like it was nothing. She threw it constantly as Issei kept dodging it so easily. I haven't even used Balance Breaker or my semblance. But I am bored of playing with you. Issei transforms into a dragonoid form using his semblance Dragifers as he looks at his boosted gear, which now upgrades into its 2.0 version with Issei speaking to two of his partners, Drake and Bell. Be ready for this. Drage spoke with happiness, you needn't tell me twice, especially with what has happened. I would love to see you pummel her. I totally agree with you, Drage. Ice, show her what you have got and what you are capable of. This was Bell as Rias was confused. Before she could mouth her complaints, Issei gave a punch aimed at her stomach, making her cough up. Rias fell behind as Issei followed up with a draconic fire breath. As she screams in pain, she was unable to keep up with Issei. She looked up to see Issei, unleashing two air slashes which she barely evaded. She struggled to keep up with Issei as she responded with the power of destruction lighting, as Issei easily evaded them with ease. Ambushing her from behind, Issei stomped his ground as the wings grew brighter in color. This was Dragon for Stage 2, an evolved form of the original Dragon Force. Issei's semblance evolved during his fight against a certain knight, since he lost his pawn pieces. He can't use his promotions. As a result, he had to focus on his semblance and a new armor, which he was able to achieve success in as his semblance evolved 3 times due to his intense training. Stage 2 Dragon Force allowed him to manipulate earth or the ground, which also meant he could combine fire and wind with ground to use lava and sand manipulation. He immediately created a ground wall, sending her flying as he released the lava breath onto her, making her scream in pain due to lava burning her face. It's time to end this. Issei entered into his base balance breaker, which changed due to his semblance, almost looking similar to the Juggernaut drive. This was balance breaker, living weapon mode, which allowed him to merge his boosted gear with any weapon he has stored in his pocket. It was in gold armband with fire opal on it. He opened his chest cavity as it started to glow with energy. Boost. 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 Boost, 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 boost. Gray boosted several times as a light red beam was formed at the center. Rias was getting rid of the lava as her face was badly damaged. However, Issei released the beam as Drag announced. Manual Blast. Issei used his signature move Manual Blast, which was a weaker version of the Longina Smasher, but much stronger than a Dragon Shot. This move was strong enough to defeat Satanos, one of the Redacted Watcher's creations. Rias took a direct hit as she was sent flying. She screamed in pain due to the energy blast as she was forcefully retreated so that the blast does not end up killing her. Issei Depot ordered his armor as Grafia made her final announcement. Rias Gremory has been defeated. Isil Hidu and his peerage have won the raiding game. Soon enough, Ingvald also joined in as she spoke with a smile. It seems like you did it. So what will you ask her to do? Something I should have done a long time ago. Issei was about to speak as they were all teleported back to their real dimension, as they were greeted by the leaders with Sergiches speaking. Well, that match was really something. That means she must honor anything you ask, right? Issei nodded as his group wondered what he is going to ask. However, what he spoke did not surprise anyone. I want her and the girls that were living here out of my place. Had they not fought against me or talked about my friends and loved ones like that, things would have been different, but I can't. She and her peerage don't deserve to live here, especially after what they think of me and my friends. Sergex did not expect anything else. He knew this was going to happen, which was something he also agreed to it as well. Even he agreed that Rios had crossed the line when she said those things during the raiding game about Issei and his group. I totally understand. I will let her know of the news. And Issei, your promotion to high-class devil will be guaranteed. Issei was surprised by this. As he spoke, how did you convince the other Satans and the Great King faction about this? The other Satans knew of you fighting a literal god-class being. Even with the help of the Dragon of Dreams, you still managed to defeat him. While Zechariah was a bit tough to convince. But after telling him everything, he informed that he would put up a good word for the council. Issei nodded in understanding, as he was very happy about this. This meant that he can finally have a normal and peaceful life. The others were also happy by this. As John wondered who will be the queen of Issei's peerage, he decided to keep his mouth shut, as he did not want to create chaos in any way. Anyways, John, Jade, I have some news for you too as well. Azazel spoke, garnering everyone's attention. As he spoke, I did the task you had asked me to do a few weeks ago, and just recently I managed to make first contact with a man named Appen. Do you know him? Those from Remnant were surprised by this as John responded, why yes. He is the headmaster of Kuoh Academy. You should speak to him. Azazel nodded as he spoke. I see. Well, I will keep in touch with him and let you know. Now I will go and let Rias know of this. Sergiches spoke as the group nodded in understanding. He and Gracia soon headed to the infirmary located in the 5th floor. Azazel then spoke along with Michael. Well, I will be taking my leave. I have some work to do and some gears to research. See you? Azazel soon teleported, followed by Michael, as Issei then asked while stretching, so what do you guys want to do? We could roam around your hometown. Would you show us Kuoh Town? Jade suggested as Issei nodded. Sure, come around. I will show you the place and where all you need to go. The group nodded in agreement. As they decided to roam around for a while, they did go through months of survival in the Backrooms, and now was the time to rest. High at a residence, 4 p.m. The Gremory peerage were in the infirmary room. They remembered the agonizing defeat at the hands of Issei and his new group. Rias clenched the sheets in anger, as she exclaimed, "After all I have done for him, is this how he treats me? I should have never reincarnated him." "You're right, Rias. Not only are him and his friends much stronger, but also they are more ruthless." Aquino spoke with equal anger, as Zenobia could be seen clenching her bed sheets even more angrily, remembering the brutal defeat at the hands of John, his shotlock beam, as well as his sword skills. The other members present minus Kiba and Gasper agreed to this. "You are right, President. After everything you did for him, he still does not see that you regret your actions." Kaneko spoke emotionlessly, but there was anger in her voice, only for Kiba to speak up in anger. "Do you girls not see on how he has become? He has found girls that helped him with his troubles which you had a hand in causing." Kiba looked at the girls as Rias angrily retorted. "Those whores have taken and manipulated our Issei from us," and Kiba cuts Rias off and speaks with anger. "Do you hear yourself talk? Be glad Issei was not here to put you in your place. That blonde was right about you, you really are spoiled." Rias glared at Kiba in response, however. Before she was able to retort, someone else came in and spoke with a tone of seriousness. "Kiba is right." The group turned around to see Sergiches, Grafia and Mary in the room, all of whom were having looks of anger in their eyes. The girls looked at the trio with fear in their eyes as Sergiches exclaimed, "Issei has already told me what he wants. He wants all of you to pack your stuff and leave, no exceptions." Sergiches spoke seriously as Grafia came forward with the phoenix tears, as Rias and the other girls looked at him with dread, and Rias spoke with horror. "Why you can't do this? Issei, where is he? Let me talk to him." Asia added, "I agree with one Isama. Issei can't kick us out of this house. This house belongs to President. He has no right to kick her out of this house." Aquino added with equal anger and sadness. "He couldn't kick her out of this house or any of them from this house." Zenobia also spoke her words. "President is right, let us talk to him. He has no right to do this." Arzicius and Mary were getting frustrated by these complaints, with Grafia also being close to getting even more angry. He could hear Caddis, Murayama and the other girls also complaining. He finally snapped. "Enough." Serzek's scream was enough to silence all the girls. They all looked at him with fear as he continued, "Don't forget you made this deal. You will do anything what he asks, and he has asked this. I want you all to pack your stuff and leave. Otherwise, I will personally forcefully transport your stuff back to the Gremory mansion." Serzek spoke very coldly, causing the girls to cry in sadness. He really meant it, and they have to go through with their deal. They have no choice. Serzek then spoke, "I have brought some phoenix tears. Grafia will apply them to you. Once you are ready to walk, you will start packing your stuff and head to the underworld. I will send some maids to help you as well." Serzekias spoke seriously as the girls nodded in understanding. There was nothing they could do. Kiba and Gasper looked at the scene in disappointment, as Grafia walked forward to apply the phoenix tears to the girls. She remembered Issei's parents and Mary, stating that it was his choice to let the girls stay, thus they couldn't blame him. Not to mention, seeing only minimal change in the girls meant that they were still almost the same. She knew that they have not changed. "It pains me to do this to you girls, but you have brought this on yourselves. If you had shown respect to his or any of the girls, none of this would have happened." "I mean, did you girls even apologize for what you said?" Serzek looked at the girls as none of them answered, as he shook his head and spoke, "No, right? Let this be a learning lesson to you. You have lost him and learned this well, Rias and the rest of you girls." Serzek spoke as the girls could do nothing but cry at this. As soon as they were able to walk, they went into their rooms to pack their stuff. There was nothing they could do now. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi RageRevan, dropping a special something into the Chibi version of this world while chuckling with happiness. Hi, do residents, 9:30 p.m. Issei and his group returned back to home as Issei asked, "So what do you think of the town?" "It is pretty calm as opposed to Vale with no Grim hunting us at the borders or any forestry area," John commented in response as Yang added, "Yep, and I even liked Kuoh Academy. This is where we will be studying." "Right. If you wish, it won't be like Grim studies or any of the subjects you would normally study back at Remnant. So if you are fine with that, then it's alright." Issei responded to Yang's question as Jade asked, Which subjects are you talking about? The usual English, Japanese, or in your world of Australian, maths, computer coding, civics, physics, biology, and chemistry, that is all. Jade seemed alright with the subjects, while the others were a bit concerned on the subjects since majority of them seemed new to this field. Judging by age, I need to be a teacher, right? Summer spoke in response as Issei nodded. She wondered what faculty role she could take. While she was thinking, someone came into Issei's house. He recognized the magic circle. It was Sursages, Lucifer and Graphia, both of whom has worried looks on their faces. I have some bad news. Issei walked towards him and asked with worry, what is the issue? Did Rios do something? No, not her. She won't be troubling you at home. That is first thing. Issei sighed in relief, as the others also seemed happy. Sursicus then spoke with a sigh. It is the Great King faction, Issei. What happened? Why would they be a problem? John asked, as Sursicus took a deep breath and explained to Issei. It is actually several devils in the Devil Society look down upon lower-ranked devils. It is primarily due to their pride that they have in them. This results in some devils hating and viewing humanity as inferior species. I see. Many frown at this side of the Devil Society, as Summer then asked, so what is the issue? I am getting to that, Mrs. Rose. You see, Zcrombio had to tell everything as a reason to why Issei needs to become a high-class devil, including informing about Inkvold Leviathan to them. Let's just say Lord Bailey and many of the Great King faction members are against Issei becoming a high-class devil, even after Issei defeated a god-class being with Great Red's help, of course, and even defeating many of the entities in the Backrooms with threats like Shang Tsung and Quan Chi that are as strong as high-class devils, potentially even higher. Yet, it was not enough. Surzex spoke with a sigh as Issei looked at Surzex and responded, that is fine, but why were you so worried? When Zekrom said everything, I mean everything, and this includes the other girls as well. They now desire the engagement of Ingvild with a high-class devil. They also want to engage the other girls to the same high-class devil. Lord Baal is spearheading this decision. Surzex spoke with a deep sigh, making many angry. Issei and John held their girls with worry while gritting their teeth with anger. There was no way they are letting the girls go to someone they don't know. Yang, Jade and Ingvold were livid by the decision made by those men. They have no right to their lives. Ruby and Ravel were angered by this. Summer was beyond livid by this. Her daughters are not their pawns. Issei then angrily spoke. I would love to talk with them. Surseachus understood why Issei would be angry as he spoke with a smile. He knew Issei was protective of his friends and family. This was the Issei they knew. No matter what he becomes, he will always protect his loved ones, no matter what. Thought you'd never ask. Scene change. Great King Faction Headquarters, 10:30 p.m. Great King Faction, also known as Great Royal Faction, is a political faction formed by the Ball clan to increase their influence as they empathize with underworld politics based on traditional devil aristocracy, such as devil blood purity and the continuation of the Devil Nobles Society. Their current leaders were Lord Ball and Zekrom Ball. Lord Ball. Zekrom Ball was a middle-aged looking man with black hair and peaceful violet eyes, wearing a nobleman's attire. He has an aura of strong dignity that exudes from him, while Lord Ball looked like an older version of Sayard Ball, with black hair and violet eyes. He wore nobleman's attire just like Zekrom Ball did. In terms of personalities, Zekrom Baal was described to be extremely prideful in his clan status as the highest ranking amongst the 72 pillars, as well as their trademark ability. However, he is also wise and open-minded enough to acknowledge people of exceptional ability. Additionally, he also respected Issei after hearing his adventure in the dreaded Backrooms and made it out alive, defeating anyone that stood in his way and protecting and leading his allies, while Lord Baal is extremely prideful even for a Baal, and never showed any sort of fatherly love towards his sons, as he was greatly angered with his elder son, Seriurg, for not born with the clan's power of destruction. Lord Ball is also a very jealous man since, aside from Seriurg, he also has a strong hatred towards as he is the strongest among the young devils and the rising star as Op-Eye Dragon in the underworld, garnering popularity and fame despite him being a reincarnated devil. Additionally, Issei's actions also made him slightly fear his power, causing him to fear him. He wanted him out of the Devil's Society, especially after he left the Gremory Purge. Just as they were about to leave for their house, the doors of the place suddenly explode, causing them to be startled, as Lord Ball exclaimed, "Who dares to break in the Great King faction buildings?" A voice exclaimed in response, "It is me, Father of the Year." The voice was revealed himself to be Issei, as the Great King faction to be startled, while some of the members were angry at this. Zekrom shook his head in disappointment, while Lord Bale gritted his teeth, recognizing who was in front of him. "You damned low-class devil. You dare attack our building, you will regret this." Lord Bale ordered the devils present, "Destroy him." The devils rushed towards Issei, as Issei transformed into his dragonoid form. Using his semblance, he entered into his Stage 2 form as he manipulated the earth, sending them flying up before they could even react. "I will make you regret trying to go after my peerage members, Lord Bale." Lord Bale glared towards Issei with hatred as he fired his power of destruction towards him. He dodged the ball with relative ease as he flew towards him and grabbed him by his shoulder. "Let go of me, you filthy low class." Issei then spoke with a grin. "Sure, why not?" Issei threw him up in the air and used air slash towards Lord Ball. As he responded with a magic circle of his own, Issei was then surrounded by several magic spells of elemental magic. However, Issei flew up in the air quicker than how they could unleash them. Even ultimate class devils would struggle against Issei at this point. He soon transformed into Stage 3 Dragon Force, which was the semblance's third evolution caused during his fight against the Dark Metro and the Dark Priest while they were returning back to their worlds. Agun for Stage 3 increases Issei's horn size as well as wingspan. It looked bigger than how it should be looking normally. Additionally, Issei can use water manipulation in this form. This also includes steam manipulation, which is a combination of water and fire manipulation, sludge manipulation, which is a combination of water and ground manipulation, and finally, storm manipulation, which is a combination of water and wind manipulation. In addition, it increases Issei's powers and strength even more than Stage 2 or Stage 1 Dragon Force. Issei flew in the air, constantly boosting towards Lord Ball as he tried to use power of destruction, but Issei easily evaded them with ease. He started to breathe fire at him, which Lord Ball tried to defend, but it was too much for him. The barrier broke, causing him to scream in pain. Lord Ball was partially burned as Issei socked him in the face before he could react. Those of the political members that sided with Lord Beale tried to defend their leader as they tried to use magic as Issei grabbed Lord Beale, using him as a shield to take the hits, preventing them from attacking. They gritted their teeth in anger. Zekrom and his supporters did not try and stop Issei. His anger was justified to every extent. He knew how much Issei cared for his friends, especially from what Cersicus told about him. He respected Issei a lot, and was surprised when Lord Ball refused his decision at first since he always used to consult him. Lord Ball was sent flying towards the ground, making him cough up. Issei looked at the other members and looked at Zekrom and his followers. "Leave. Things will be intense from now on." They nodded in understanding and teleported out of there. Issei then looked up in the air and released lava from his mouth as it downpoured all over the field, causing the members to try and defend themselves, but Issei did not let them. He attacked them with his flames as he moved around in circles, causing them to either defend from the flames or from the lava. Some chose the latter while the others chose the former. Either way, they screamed in pain due to being burned alive. Scene change. Bale Territory, 11:30 p.m. Zekrom and his followers managed to teleport to the Bale Territory as they were greeted by Sergiches and Sayerg. The latter was described to be a handsome young man with black hair and violet eyes. He is very tall and has a muscular build due to the extreme training he has done. He wore a black t-shirt with red markings and gray jeans. Alard Zekrom. Sergiches spoke while bowing with respect as Sayerg looked at Sergiches and asked, "So just how strong Issei's semblance is?" Sayerg asked, in response to which Sergiches spoke, "He was able to beat Rias without using it to its full power. I theorize that it can even go higher from what Issei has shown. While he was in the Backrooms, he told me that he has unlocked 3 stages the last time I had asked him. I don't know if he has unlocked an additional stage or not." I need to ask him. Seorc nodded in understanding. When he heard had left the Gremory peerage, him being shocked would be an understatement. He wanted answers. He decided to talk to Sursages when the time was right, and he told him to keep this a secret. Only then he would be talking to him. Eventually, he came to know what happened and where was. Seorc looked at Sursages with surprise, but he also knew that if he manages to survive, he would come back stronger. However, he was saddened that Issei won't fight him during the raiding game tournament. I wonder how will he deal with my father? Spoke with a sigh. His father intentionally provoked wrath, and as a result, is fighting against his father and his followers. Not that held love for his father, especially after he abandoned him and his mother. And this John you speak of, he also has a terrible father and mother. Sursages nodded as he responded. Indeed, he was shunned and outright disowned for faking his way into Beacon. From his account, no one trained him in any way. They deemed him worthless. Seorc could relate to this John. His father was no different from John's parents. He was lucky to have a mother that loved and believed in him even when his father or his clan did not. I feel bad for him. They abandoned him to his doing, and yet they claimed to prioritize family bonds. Seorc spoke with sadness. He could see why John hates his own family. Sursages shook his head and spoke. I have a feeling that he will want vengeance against them. Even his own team and his Issei are going to help them. I wonder what he will do to them. Sursages spoke as he looked at the Great King faction building, as he knew the fight will be over. Scene change. Great King faction headquarters, 12 a.m. Most of the politicians were beaten and defeated, along with those devils that had supported Lord Baal. They were burned, with some of their skin being as burnt as a piece of charcoal. They were all passed out. Lord Baal had it worse. He had his stomach torn off, blood releasing from the area. His face was partially burnt with him struggling for air, while he had a look of fear and horror etched on his face. He feared Issei even more now, and regretted provoking him now. Issei held him by the throat as he spoke. Will you ever get in my way again? Issei spoke coldly as Lord Baal shook his head with fear. As Issei continued, I heard what you did to Lady Miss Laud Baal and Sayard Baal. You abandoned him when he possessed no power, right? I will do something similar to you. You will no longer wield the power of destruction. Lord Baal was dropped as Issei activated his boosted gear in his 2.0 form. He started to absorb the power of destruction, while Lord Baal looked in horror. He was unable to do anything. Once Issei had done, he looked at his hand and imagined the power of destruction in his hand. He smiled knowing that he was able to snatch it successfully. This was one of Boosted Gear 2.0 Second's unique ability being Absorb, which allows Issei to absorb anyone's powers if he or she is weaker than him. This meant that Issei was capable of absorbing the magical ability that allowed the usage of power of destruction. No, Lord Baal spoke with horror and fear as he looked at Issei, who spoke, now experienced the suffering your son once did. Goodbye, Lord Baal. Issei walked away, leaving Lord Baal defeated. His pride took the better of him as he cursed with all his might as he got up to ambush Issei. Honor Dragon! Lord Baal shouted as Issei ducked him and gave him the punch right between his legs, towards his crotch. Lord Baal held his crotch in pain as Issei muttered with a smile, "This one's for you, Johnny Cage." Scene change. Meanwhile in the back rooms. Level 11, 12:15 a.m. Meanwhile, both Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade were on the bed in Sonya's apartment. He stopped in the middle of watching a movie as Sonya asked, "Is something wrong?" "No, I just feel proud for some reason." Sonya shook her head and sighed. "Come on, Johnny, we haven't got all day, let's carry on." They continued doing what they were doing as they had the night alone to them. Sonya slept on Johnny's shoulder as they continued to watch, knowing they could live their lives normally. Scene change. Meanwhile in DXD world. Baal Mansion, 12:15 a.m. Issei managed to head towards to the Baal Mansion as he spoke to Zekrom. He is alive but not in the right shape. Zekrom nodded as he headed to that place. He hoped that Lord Baal does not do anything to provoke him in any way. Hi to Issei. Issei turned around to see the one who called him as he gave a smile in response. "It's been a while, Serge." Smiled in response as he continued, "Well, I am glad you don't hate me. Do you still remember our promise?" "I do, and I will fulfill it, and this time, I will be bringing my team with me. Responded with a fist bump, as did the same as he spoke with an excited tone. I'll be waiting for that day. Issei smiled in response as surgiches coughed, gathering their attention. I will be sending you your evil pieces. By the way, have you considered who will become your queen among Jade, Ingvild or Revel? I would advise you to not open that can, surgiches. Nai, I don't want to deal with 3 angry girls. Issei spoke with Drita surgiches. Zekrom and Sayer could relate. They at least had someone whose anger they did not want to provoke. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei meeting Chibi Rick. Issei and going on adventures with him in the multiverse. A few days later, Kuoh Academy, 4:30 p.m. John and Issei were heading towards Azazel's laboratory. All of Issei's group have joined his peerage, with Ruby and John being knight pieces, John's being a mutated knight piece because of his power. Summer became a pawn piece where she took up 4 pawn pieces, while Yang took up a rook piece. Now one must be wondering, who was Azazel's queen? It was Ingvild Leviathan. She became his queen after she beat Revel and Jade in a series of contests and became the queen, while Revel and Jade reluctantly became bishops. Issei still had an empty rook and 4 empty pawns. Anyways, John, you're ready to meet the folks from the other world? Issei asked. Earlier they had managed to get a call from Azazel that the portal to the other world is ready. John sighed as he spoke. I am not sure, Issei. I wonder they will still care for me. Issei shook his head and responded, from what I hear, this Saffron cares for you along with her family. Then we have the professors, headmaster, and some students in Beacon, as well as this Yuri and her family also care for you, right? John nodded as he responded, yes. I guess you are right. Issei nodded as he soon reached Azazel's office, as they could see his current peerage, and Valir Lucifer present, who was described to be a silver-haired girl with blue eyes. As she spoke, took you too long enough. Sorry, convincing Razwa-sensei was a bit hard. Issei spoke with a sigh. Their relationship was not the best since she was still a bit skeptical of his perversion. As John spoke, you sure about not telling her about Remnant? Teach. Not yet. We are not sure about the others from Remnant, since those from Beacon may be problematic. The students, to be precise. We will only tell her once we are sure. John knew Rosways was the only one in the Orc that was not present in insulting Issei, and was also the only one that did not fight against Issei during their raiding game a few days ago. They both nodded in understanding, as Azazel continued. Only the leaders and you guys along with Sayerg and Ricer know about Remnant, no one else does. John understood what this meant as Azazel soon teleported everyone present to the underworld. In Ajuka's lab, Issei noticed Valerie's team not being present as he asked, so where is your team, Valerie? They are still spying for the brigade, making sure they do not know about Remnant. Valerie joined the Hayato residence after sensing his presence 3 days later, and this caused a fight to break out where Drake and Belle all compounded themselves onto her, beating and defeating her. However, she had already developed feelings for him and confessed to Issei, much to his girl's jealousy. Needless to say, calming them down was a lot harder. She had officially joined the Hayato residence. As soon as they came, they were greeted by Ajuka Beelzebub as well as Circe's Lucifer that was waiting for him. Oh, you came, the others are waiting for you. Ajuka spoke with a smile as he greeted the people present. When they went inside, they were greeted by Yasaka, Kunu, Auden, Seraphol, Falbium and Michael waiting for them. Issei Nisan? Kunu rushed towards him. As she reached him, she was described to be a young girl of 12 years old. She had golden blonde hair tied in a ponytail, and matching eyes like her mother. It's been a while, Kunu. Issei spoke while rubbing her hair as she smiled in response as Ingvild spoke. Aren't you going to greet the rest of us? Yes. Ingvild and I, Kunu greeted the rest of the peerage. She got along with almost everyone with Yang, noting that she has an attitude similar to Ruby, while Ruby became good friends with her. The other leaders soon walked forward. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yusaku spoke with a smile as she looked towards the group that she survived alongside with as Issei nodded. Yep, indeed. So Johnny-chan, you ready for meeting those from Remnant? John gave a nod as he spoke. Indeed, I am Lady Leviathan. Oh, how many times have I told you call me Levi-ten or Sarah-chan? Sarah Fall spoke with a pout. She was described to be a black-haired girl with blue eyes. As everyone's sweat dropped at this, then Auden spoke. I hope those people are friendly. Well, Ijuka, let's get started. Ijuka nodded as he started the machine. A portal was soon opened up revealing several figures, including Headmaster Osban, members of Team CFEY, Cardon Winchester, Blake Belladonna, along with Saffron and the Terracotta, along with Crow Branwen and Taeyang Xiaolong, and finally someone who was excited to meet John now. This was Yuri Winterflake. Ruby, Yang and John were ecstatic to see them again, with Summer having tears seeing her teammate Crow and her husband, Taeyang, once again. Ruby and Yang also had tears, while Jade, who was behind Issei, wanted to meet, but she was not sure whether Saffron would remember her. Ruby, Yang, John, is that you? Blake spoke with tears in her eyes as she immediately rushed to embrace her two teammates. John watched with a smile while Crow spoke with surprise in his voice. Short stack. Yes, you dusty old crow, it is me. Summer spoke with a smile as Tiang hugged his wife after a very long time. Crow also greeted her after a very long time as Tiang hugged his daughters after a very long time. John? John was called up by Saffron, Tara and Yuri, all of whom were happy to see him. John, Yuri shouted in happiness, as she immediately dashed towards him and embraced him while crying endlessly. John also returned the hug as well. Soon enough Saffron and Tara along with Adrian also walked towards him as after a while John and Yuri split up as Saffron spoke. Hey, aren't you going to greet your older sister? John smiled in response as he spoke. I would never forget Saffron. John embraced Saffron as well, along with Tara and Adrian, as she spoke. It is good to see you again, John. We all feared the worst when you went missing. I know, Saffron. Come sit down. We have all a lot to catch up to. John spoke with a smile, as they nodded with happiness. None of those from Earth speak, as they all smile in happiness from them reuniting with their loved ones. Jade seemed to be nervous upon meeting them, however, looked at her and responded, Come on, go meet your older sister. I am not sure, I doubt they would even cut her off and speaks. You needn't worry. You told me that your sister will love and remember you when I had doubts about marrying me. Go and meet her. Jade nods as she walks forward. John then looks at her and speaks, Saffron. Saphorn looks at him and looks towards the directions and was surprised to see who was in front of her. Jade. Is that you? Why, yes. Do you remember? Jade was cut off by Saffron immediately embracing her as Jade was remained speechless. She gave him a bear hug as she spoke. Of course I do. It's been so long since I have seen you. 6 years? Welcome back, Jade. Jade teared up upon this and returned her embrace. Issei and his peerage were happy to see this as they soon decided to settle down and have a talk with each other. The two groups mingled with each other very well as they got along very well. Saffron and Tai were interrogating Issei and John respectively due to them dating their loved ones. For Saffron, it is her younger sister, while Tai, it was her 2 daughters, but upon seeing them to be nice men, they did not mind. Although they were a bit worried on the fact that they have harems, however, they were told by the leaders that it was legal in their world. Speaking of harems, Yuri was jealous that John had 2 other girlfriends, but she eventually relented by this, and accepted Ruby and Yang as his sisters, while Blake was writing her fan fiction of John having a harem. Saffron soon met up with Mary, and the two hit it off immediately. They had a lot in common and loved talking about their little brothers, much to their embarrassment. They became fast friends, and Mary even got along with Tara and Adrian. Cardon was having a conversation with Issei and John, along with Yatsuhashi and Fox, as they were discussing on what John and Issei planned to do with either of them being interested in being huntsmen. Additionally, evening Wild, Ruby, Yang, Jade, Valerie, Coco, Yuri, Blake and Velvet. The ones from Remnant were surprised by this, however, they understood why John no longer wanted to be a huntsman, with Ruby and Yang also staying back in Earth. Much to Blake and Yuri's sadness, however, they wondered if they could join Kuoh, for which Issei decided to talk to the headmaster about it, much to their happiness. The others decided to finish their huntsman's studies instead of joining Kuoh, but they promised to stay in touch. Additionally, Ashpin and Summer were discussing on what should be happening next. Summer refused to come back to Remnant because of her lack of trust in Ashpin, as the former understood he had no intention of forcing her since Azazel suggested that her staying here would be safe. Summer came to know the reason of Ajban hiding the fact that Salem was immortal along with Kuoh and Tai. Kuoh was ready to sock him, but he was stopped by Tai, who calmed him down as he also understood why Ajban hid the truth. "Hey, John. There is something I need to tell you." Yuri spoke with sadness in her voice as everyone near her seemed worried. John then asked, "What happened? You remember your cousin Jade Arc, right?" John had a frown upon hearing his name as he responded, "Yeah." "What of that arrogant prick?" Jade had a bad feeling about what will happen as Yuri speaks with worry. "Your clan wants me to engage with him." "Of course, I and my parents were against this, but your clan." Yuri trailed off as she started to tear up, as John became concerned as he asked with worry, "Are Yuki and Isbert all right?" Yuri shook their heads as she responded, "And no." Tears fell from her eyes, as John and the others became concerned. Jade then asked, What did they do?" They killed them. B. Baldur and K. Krantz killed them, when they defied the Sea Clan's will." Yuri spoke with a croak. She was crying as there was nothing but silence when they heard of this, as Jade exclaimed, How could they do this? They were friends of my grandparents." Jade also had tears in her eyes. She couldn't believe the clan has gotten this far, as someone spoke from a distance. "No, Jade, they did the deed. We couldn't get them arrested because of lack of evidence. Plus the Arch-clan sabotaged every attempt of arresting them by controlling the courts, so we couldn't do anything. That and lack of evidence are the reason why they were safe. Additionally, we came to know of this recently. The ones that spoke were Saffron and Osborne, as they both had saddened looks on their faces. Jade was crying when she heard of this. The clan has fallen too far." As Issei calmed her down and consoled him. While John was beyond livid at this, he already hated Baldur and Krantz. But now he despised them. As John spoke, "I do not want to head back to Remnant, but today I will make an exception. I have a plan to expose Baldur and Krantz, not only to the whole of Remnant." John's voice had anger in it. Everyone understood why. As Osborne spoke, "Mr. John, what are you planning to do?" John only smiled. He looked to the Issei, who was calming a crying Jade. He understood what this means. This was John's revenge. Scene change. In Remnant. Kuoh Academy, 7:30 p.m. Kuoh Academy was in complete destruction as Grimm were wiping out several students and destroying the buildings. The students were either running away in fear and escaping or fighting against Grimm, while John and Issei were watching the scene. He closed his eyes and tried to sense magic towards the lower levels of the CCTS. He looked at John and spoke. "I will head towards the CCTS and protect Amber while you make sure to stop her." John responded with a smile. "It would be my pleasure. Speaking of which, are Ingvald and the other girls in position?" "Yep, and Jade couldn't come. She is still recovering with what happened." Issei ended with anger in her voice. He remembered Mary, Yang and Ruby looking after her, while the others, including Valerie, joined him in the fight. "Well then, let's get to work." Issei and John entered into their armor forms as they headed to the CCTS. They saw a red-haired woman in a Spartan armor heading to the area as John immediately used Shadlock Beam as she was sent flying from a distance, as she managed to recover her stance. "Issei, go ahead and protect her. I will handle Pear." Pierce widened her eyes when she recognized the voice. It was John's own voice. She paled when she heard this as she spoke. John. Hello, Miss Trillion Clown. It's been a while." Pierce gritted her teeth in anger as she spoke. "You have some nerve of showing back when John was not having any of it," as he slammed her to the ground with a single punch. Purah coughed up upon response as she glared angrily and shouted, "You have some nerve of doing this to your own partner." "Former partner? I have no traitor like you as my partner, you red-haired champion." Purah got even more angry as she tried to use her semblance polarity, but was unable to do so as John responded with telekinesis, blocking her attempt to use as he twisted her hand, snapping it. John knew that her aura will heal her up as she asked, "How did a faker like you get this power?" "Easy, fuck you." That's how John flew in the air and generated a strong shotlock beam towards her, as she took a direct hit, causing her to scream in agony and pain. She was sent flying with her body bouncing on the ground. John was not done yet. He glided towards her and slammed on her stomach, making her cough up, as she coughed up blood. Her retried to use Milo using the free hand that she had since her aura was still working on the damaged arm as John blocked it with Caliban as he deflected it with his superior strength. He stabbed her in the chest, making her cough up. This shattered the last of her aura. She looked towards John with fear and hatred as John spoke with a smile, seeing her helpless and fearful state. How pathetic. John grabbed Pear by her hair and spoke, I am going to make an example out of you. Meanwhile, Issei was fighting against a fair-skinned young woman with ashen black hair that covers her left eye. She has bright amber eyes. This was Cinderfall, as he spoke mockingly. He was in his balance breaker armor. Seriously, is that all you have got? You disappoint me. Cinder gritted her teeth in anger. She was so close to getting her fall maiden powers, but she was interrupted by the man in front of him. She constantly tried to fight against him, but she was unable to do anything. Any attack she threw at him was easily dealt with. She was powerless to stop him in any way. The Cinder, it felt like she was facing someone much more stronger than Cinder herself. Don't be angry, it's nothing personal. I was asked to stop you and let's end this. Issei looked at the false maiden with apathy. He was no secret to the maiden powers thanks to Summer, and has taken on her as well. The woman in front of him was barely a challenge and was much weaker than Summer. I was so close to gaining the maiden powers, but you dare intervene me. You even defeated Mercury and Emerald like they were nothing. You will regret this. Cinder unleashed her scimitars as she rushed towards Issei with the intent to kill him, as Issei brought out Ascalon as he blocked them with ease. The sword skills are really something as he sliced off one of her arms, making her scream in pain. Cinder lost her left hand as she looked at it in horror and fear. Her chances of fighting against this monster as he spoke, last chance, stand down. Never, I will never surrender. Issei sighed and spoke, don't say I did not warn you. Living weapon mode. The boosted gear chanted as Issei had his 12-gauge had merged with his boosted gear. This is one of the alternative armors he had gained when he had lost his promotions and Cardinal Crimson promotion after being well trained off course. Issei blitzed towards her and aimed his shotgun at her. He fired a single shot as Cinder backflipped to avoid the attack, but some pellets were struck at her. She gritted her teeth in pain, but before she could get this far, Issei fired another shot at her legs. As it destroyed her legs, she staggered, immediately losing one arm and one leg. She was powerless against him. Cinder had fear in her eyes. She was powerless against him. As Issei looked at her and spoke with a serious tone, don't look at me with those eyes, you brought this on yourself. You should have surrendered when you got the chance. Issei fired a final shot that immediately killed her. Her upper torso was sent flying. Issei looked at her coldly as her corpse soon slumped down. He knew that she was dangerous to be kept alive since she would only cause more trouble for everyone involved. He knew she tried to kill him multiple times and it was by instinct to take her down. He also saw her trying to escape, but Issei did not let that happen. The reason Issei killed her was because he gave her 3 chances to leave and walk out, but she refused every time and tried to kill him. In the backrooms, it was kill or be killed. He remembered that he had to kill his opponents if he and his allies had to survive, while making sure no one was harmed from his group. He knew many entities, humans and even supernatural creatures had tried to kill him. This included even his ex-girlfriend and her allies, who the team made sure to kill not just once, but 2 times. Issei decided to head back. Unbeknownst to him, that an orb came out of Cinder's corpse and went straight into Amber, who was still in comatose. Issei returned to his regular balance breaker, as he saw John looking at him and responded, so you are done with yours? Yep. It's time we head outside with our prize. John spoke while raising the fearful Purr by the hair as he spoke. So what now? We will use her to lure Alex out. Using her, we will force the Arcs to surrender Baldur and Krantz to us. This can end either in 2 outcomes, either Baldur and Krantz come to us thinking me as a weakling, or they end up sacrificing Alexandria for their clan's sake. Either way, it will destroy the clan's reputation. John spoke with a sinister grin, making us a sigh. His hatred for his clan was well known even to him. Why, you monster? As she is your sister. How can you do this to her? Pyrrha spoke with fear as John brought her closer to him, his blank helmet revealing a more mature version of the John she last saw. Alexandria is no sister of mine, and the Arc clan of Remnant is no family of mine. I will make sure to make an example of you, come Pyrrha. John dragged Pyrrha by her hair while she screamed in pain. Issei followed suit as he looked at Pyrrha in a disappointed manner. Once they were out, they saw Nora, Lai, Alex and Weiss approaching them as Weiss asked Pyrrha, "Are you?" Weiss was unable to complete when she saw the horrifying fate of Pyrrha Nikos held by none other than Jade Arc, an armored man who was Issei in his balance breaker form. "Hello, old friends." The reactions were shock and horror at first, as Pyrrha shouted, "Run away, Alex, he has come for his vengeance. He wants to." Pyrrha was stomped on the ground as John stepped on her stomach, making her groan in pain. Pyrrha. Nora rushed towards John ready to break his legs with her weapon magnelled, as Alex shouted, "Nora, wait." However, before she could reach John, Issei intercepted her and grabbed her by the throat. He started to choke her, causing her to drop her hammer. Alex, Ren and Weiss tried to charge at him, but Issei spoke coldly. "Make one move, and I'll snap her neck." Nora tried to release herself from Issei's grip, but it was too powerful. John soon kicked Parrot towards a wall, knocking her out cold, as he told, "Then handle Nora and prevent Alex escaping." Issei nodded as he looked at Nora. John went towards Lying and Weiss, dealing with them as well. Issei then spoke. "So Nora, from what I heard from John, you like breaking legs, right?" Nora struggled even more as she tried to escape. Issei looked at the nearby magnald and picked it up. He proceeded to slam Nora over and over again. However, as he did, he felt a fireball to his face, which he ignored. Alex looked in horror, as her fireballs did barely anything to him. She was looking at a monster that her former brother had befriended. She looked at Issei as he slammed her one final time, shattering her aura. Nora groaned in pain. Issei brought out Magnald and struck both of her legs multiple times, causing her to scream in pain. "Aya." Nora looked at her legs, it was completely mangled. She looked at Issei and spoke with fear. "Why are you doing this? Is it not obvious? You heard my friend passed his aura. You deserve every bit of pain coming to you. However, I am not interested in punishing you in any way. It is her that we want." Issei spoke the last part while looking at Alex. He walked away from Alex as she tried to flee, but was too late. Issei quickly pinned her down and slammed her, preventing her from escaping. He soon decided to activate a barrage of dragon shots at her, causing her to scream in pain. He made sure to quickly shatter her aura so that she does not become a problem. Issei looked at her and spoke. "Bjorn going nowhere. I heard some interesting things about you as well, on how you sabotage your twin's attempt at training, and worry not. Tonight, that same twin is going to ruin any and all reputation of the Orc clan." Issei spoke, looking at Alexandria coldly while Alex gritted her teeth and looked away with anger. There was nothing she could do as her twin, and this friend of his are going to ruin the clan completely. Meanwhile, John was easily countering Ren's hand-to-hand combat. With ease, he looked at his former friend coldly as he slammed him with his telekinesis, causing him to flinch. Lai looked at John with fear as he stomped on him and landed a curb stomp on him. His aura managed to heal him, but he felt the pain. "So, Rennie, how does it feel? You tried to attack me past my aura when I was defenseless, and if it was not for Goodwitch, you would have continued your torture, right, Rennie?" John kept kicking him at every step, causing him to grit his teeth, which changed to screams. Wise tried to assist him, but John used telekinesis to bind her. Upon sensing this, he then sent her flying, crashing to a nearby wall. He decided to deal with her after dealing with Lai. John generated 3 different aura crystals. As he jumped up in the air, he generated a lightish silvery beam towards Lai, who looked in horror and fear. John then shouted, "Shot luck beam." The beam immediately struck Lai Ren, who screamed in pain. He soon passed out, his clothes were torn, and he was bleeding from his arms, legs and face. John looked at him apathetically as he turned his attention to Weiss, as she looked at him with fear. "What's the matter, Weiss? Scared? Good, cause you will also meet the same fate as Rennie." Aijen dashed towards her as she used her glyphs to block, but John easily cuts them off with Caliban with ease. Weiss tried to escape, but John grabbed her by the throat and slammed her with his free hand. Weiss was speechless. In her thoughts, she couldn't believe the dolt that once loved her can become so strong and so cruel, even to his own family. She was now fearful on what John plans to do with her. He has already tortured Pura and Lai, and now she was next on the list. Now suffer. John grabbed Weiss by the hand and crushed it, causing her to drop the martinister. Weiss screamed in pain as John crushed it with a stomp, causing Weiss to look at her hand and her weapon in disbelief. Nothing could save any of it. John followed it with a kick to her face as he spoke. I feel ashamed of myself that I once had feelings for you, but now I have already found 3 people that loved me for who I am. 2 of them are Ruby and Yang. John spoke with a smile while Weiss glared at him with anger, fear and hatred. Oh, and that reminds me, Ruby, Blake and Yang have already planned to remove you from your team. Now you will know how it feels like to have no one to be with. Upus twice was unable to complete as John followed up with a kick to her face, almost cracking her jaw as she held her jaw in pain. Her aura was flickering with a shade of light blue. John followed up with a pulse bomb towards her, which was another of his aura abilities. A barrage of explosions which followed suit as it resulted in massive explosions. From the explosion, Weiss's body was sent flying. Her clothes were tattered, and like lies she was bleeding. She was groaning in pain as the last of her aura was shattered. John looked away as he walked towards Alex, as Issei prevented her from escaping. He looked at Issei and spoke. Seems like Nora has been dealt with. Yep. And I even got Magnoled as my trophy. Issei matched the wavelength of Nora's weapon to his as he used Assimilate on Magnoled as he absorbed it into his boosted gear. It seems like you've got another, haven't you? Drake asked Issei as he responded, yep, so now you can use hammer abilities and a grenade launcher that belonged to Magnold. Right. Issei mentally nodded to Belle's words as they looked at Alexandria. John had carried Alexandria on his back like a sack of potatoes. They decided to head towards the main location where the Wyvern was as the 4 others along with them. Soon enough they reached to where Valerie, Envold, Summer, Rex, Music Man and his DJ foreman Yuri, as they all managed to defeat the Wyvern and other Grim with ease. So that is her? Valerie asked with surprise as she looked at Alex, who looked at them with fear, as Envold spoke. Let's take her away and bring those 2 here. Alex gritted her teeth recognizing Yuri. She was not only a traitor for supporting her former brother, but also is now going to be responsible for the fall of the clan's reputation. John looked at his Issei as he brought out Alex's scroll from her left pocket, making her wonder what they plan on doing with it. Scene change. Forest, Remnant. 9 p.m. John and the rest of the group managed to reach the location where they had tied up Alex and crucified her so that she does not escape. She looked at the 2 boys with anger in her eyes as she hated them even more. So is everything set? John gave a nod in response as he spoke. Yes, hey Issei, can you pass me her scroll? Issei nodded as Alex shouted with anger in her voice. You disgraceful bastard. It was not enough for you to disgrace the family name, but also you perform such heinous acts, you should be ashamed. John cuts her off with a hard slap to the face while Lycia looks apathetically at her. He soon removes the scroll so that he could give it to John later on. Shut your mouth, Alexandria. I know what your clan did. They are the reason why my in-laws are dead, but worry not. I will destroy your clan's reputation as well as make those that harmed and killed them dead. John shouted with equal anger in his voice. His former twin's anger was appalling even to him as he continued, I would have never come back to this bloody place, but your actions made me come back. I will make sure the clan pays for its actions. Alex gritted her teeth in anger, and crying with pain from the hard slap John gave her. She hated him even more now. As Issei spoke, your clan is nothing but a bunch of morons at this point. You should have trained John properly, especially with your enemies and Grim of this world. And you, whatever your name is, you will pay for messing with the clan. Kronos will destroy you, no matter how strong you are, you armored freak. John socked her up again. As Alexandria grunted in pain, John spoke angrily, you dare disrespect my friend. Issei stops him and speaks, I got this. Issei looks at Alexandria and speaks seriously. You refuse to listen to reason, that is why I called your clan a bunch of morons. And if you want to know my name is, and I will show that your clan is nothing but a bunch of weak, narcissistic, prideful, power-hungry, callous, pompous, and self-centered morons, except for Saffron and her family. Alexandria gritted her teeth as she shouted in response, as she started to shout again. You dare disrespect my family. I will. John used telekinesis to make her shut up as he stated, one more word, and I'll snap your neck right here and right now. Alex gulped in fear when she heard that John won't hesitate to kill her. She remained silent as soon enough. The other four also came inside with Issei speaking. So is everything prepared? Yes, everything is done. Have you called that sperm donor? Valerie asked while lying Alexandria with anger. She could relate to John, given she had an abusive father herself, unlike John's father, who abandoned him without a second thought, listening to old men of the clan. Not yet, and are the listening and viewing devices done? John asked, to which Ingvold responded, yes. It's placed in several locations except this one. I will begin. The live stream will begin when you end the call to the sperm donor. Then let's get this show on the road. John spoke when Issei had an idea, although he decided to wait once the call is over. John soon dialed up Nicholas's number. Soon enough he picked up the call. Oh, Alex, you finally picked up. I saw the beacons. Nicholas was cut off by John's voice, shocking him to no end. As John spoke, hello, father. Where is Alex, and what are you doing with her scroll? John only laughed as he spoke. Take a look for yourself. John activated the video call where he could see Alex beaten up and chained. Nicholas looked at Alex and angrily shouted on the phone, You damn disgrace. You dare do this to your own sister. I will make you pay. John laughed in response as he cuts off the video call and responds, Listen to what I have to say then if you. Nicholas cuts him off and screams. You will regret doing this. I will make sure to hunt. John cuts him off and retorts, One more scream, and I will make sure to send her your corpse. Nicholas remained silent after that, as Hans spoke. Good boy. Now listen and listen well. Tell those old farts you call elders to send in Baldur and Krantz alone, with no assistance, or the rest of your clan. Let me make this very clear. Oh, and one more thing. You only have 3 hours. If you can't send them to the coordinates I am giving you with from this device, then the next thing you will find is Alexandria's corpse. Nicholas got even more angry as he screamed, You disgrace, I will. John disconnects the call as Summer comments, Geez, your father loves to yell. John sighs in response as Yuri speaks with a tone of gratitude. Thank you, John, for helping me to provide justice to my family. No worries, Yuki and Isbert are like family to me. If anything, the fact that they went against grandparents' desires even more shows how far this family has fallen. It's time for them to suffer. Yuri smiled in response as she also thanked Assi in response, You too, Assi, for not only saving and helping John, but also for making sure my family receives justice. Ain't no biggie, a friend of John is a friend of mine, although I never thought he would have a fiancé. Issei smacked John's back, making the duo blush, while the others were smiling happily in response. The only one watching the scene with hatred was Alexandria, since Yuri was supposed to be engaged to Jackson, her cousin and not her disgraceful brother. 2 hours later, Issei and John had depowered their armors as they yawned in boredom, waiting for their 2 victims to arrive. Even Ingvild did not start the live stream since she did not want to waste any time right now. She sat beside Issei, who was preparing for the fight. They made sure to not let Alex recover her aura by constantly attacking her with other elemental attacks. Oh hey Ingvild. Ingvild looked at Issei and spoke with concern. Do you think the jaw? Issei cuts her off by keeping his hand on her mouth, startling her as he points out to Alex, who was sniffling in sadness. John suggested them to keep Jade's identity and existence a secret. Not here. Issei spoke with a hushed tone as Ingvild nodded in understanding as they soon walk out to an area far away from Alex as Issei looks at his scroll. Thus got a text from Marinée. She told me that she was alright and is not crying. Still she is devastated for what the Arcs have done to Mr. and Mrs. Winterflake. Ingvild nodded in understanding. Despite being rivals for Issei's affection, she cared for Jade a lot. However, Just as Issei sensed something, he looked at Ingvald and spoke, "Prepare the live stream, they are here." And like John figured, they did not come alone, an whole army is coming with them. Ingvald nodded with a serious tone as she used her scroll and set it up in a position where Alex is. Issei looked at Ingvald and spoke, "We also need to hide Alex in a different location. Balder and Krantz won't talk if they see Alex." Ingvald nodded as she teleported Alexandria to a different location far away from where Balder and Krantz could view or anyone could see. Alexandria tried to protest, but a glare from Ingvald and Issei silenced her completely out of fear. She was kept under a special location hidden inside of the forest. The tape was tied to her mouth so that she could not speak or shout, and Rex kept an eye on her so that she could not escape. "There is a huge bullhead fleet coming our way." Summer spoke as she was joined by Music Man in his regular form. As John came forward and spoke, "It seems like the arts didn't honor our request, typical of them. Well, Valerie, Ingvild, Summer, can handle them, right? Leave it to me." Valir spoke with a battle maniac grin. "Balance break. Banishing dragon, balance breaker." Albion roared as Valir flew to the location. Issei then spoke, "Take Rex and Music Man with you." The other two girls nodded as Rex climbed on Summer's shoulder, while Langvold carried Music Man in her arms. They soon headed to the location to deal with the armada. After a while, 2 fighter jets came in, which John recognized them to be Mach 8R aircraft. An extremely speedy jet belonging to Mason or Drasso and Kronos, or anyone you want to give it to, whose speeds travel as fast as the speed of sound. It is very loud as opposed to a regular aircraft. However, it can move slowly at no sound. The aircraft is fitted with laser blasters that can even destroy a Mega Goliath without a problem. They fired laser blasters as John used telekinesis to stop them with ease, shocking their attackers. John then looked at Issei, who entered into his own balance breaker. As 2 giant cannons came out, he fired at them while John prevented from escaping, forcing them to eject from their ships. The 2 attackers were revealed to be Balder and Krantz, just like John had expected. Yuri was seething in rage seeing them, while Issei fell down removing his cannons. Balder and Krantz glared at Issei, who destroyed their crafts, while John sent the lasers to different sections of the forest causing explosions. Issei then asked, "Are they the ones you want to take down?" "Indeed." John looks at Balder and Krantz and speaks, "Hello, uncles. You damn disgrace, where is your sister?" Balder asked angrily. As John spoke, "She is in this forest somewhere. But before you go, tell me, were you the ones that attacked Yuri's parents?" Balder could see Yuri's and John's anger, while the armored man was neutral. He did not seem to be having any emotions that they could gather. They assumed that the armored man, being Issei, must be the weakest amongst the trio. Unbeknownst to them, he is the amongst the 3, and this will be the first mistake they would be doing. "Indeed, but what's it to you? Besides, there is nothing you can do that will change what will happen next, cause you are nothing but a weakling." Balder spoke with a mocking tone, as Yuri gritted her teeth in anger, but John stopped her from doing anything reckless. She looked at John and nodded. He cared for her, and that was all she wanted to hear. "I have to agree, the 2 of you are a match made in heaven, a disgrace to the Arcs, and someone who defied the clan and betrayed them over this disgrace. There is no telling on how far the 2 of you will succeed, without the clan support. You 2 disgraced the memory of your grandparents." Eyes was also getting angry now. How dare they insult his best friend, while Drake and Bell were also getting angry at this attitude of theirs. Ari and John were seething with anger, as John angrily retorted, "Do not disrespect my grandparents with your garbage boulder. They loved me for who I am, and they wouldn't have betrayed me." John remembered his conversation with his deceased grandparents' souls, which were captured and stored by Shang Tsung after Issei and his friends defeated the Deadly Alliance. The fact that Shang Tsung was able to take on John's grandparents showed what he is capable of. Issei noted that if he wanted to, he could take the whole Arch clan down and use their souls for his own well-being. They told him that he will always be loved, and they were angered by what they had heard, deeming the elders irredeemable. They also told something that would surprise him to no bounds. They wished for John to lead the clan since they saw no one to be worthy of leading the clan, especially not those elders. Krantz angrily retorted, "You have no right to speak their names, you disgrace." John shook his head and responded, If anyone is the disgrace, it is you, Krantz. No. The whole clan has become like this thanks to the elders. But don't worry. I will make sure none of you ever harm my loved ones ever again. John entered into his Ventus armor and dashed towards Baldur, as he used to throw Heimdall towards John, who used telekinesis to block it mid-flight as Yuri landed a ice shard towards the frozen Baldur, sending him flying. Baldur Krantz shouted, trying to assist him, but was ambushed by Issei. Your fight is with me, toilet head. Krantz gritted his teeth with fury as he had to deal with Issei. Using his weapon Mars, he tried to stab Issei in his armor, only for it to be blocked by Issei's hand as he grabbed it and twisted it, making Krantz scream in pain. Meanwhile, Baldur was being hounded by both Yuri and John. Yuri kept flinging her ice spikes at John, while John constantly used telekinesis to block his movements, making him unable to do anything. Yuri did not let up and froze his legs, which was soon followed up by a punch to the face courtesy of John. Baldur felt like spitting as John spoke. You know the best part about aura? John socked him again and again as Baldur tried to use Heimdall again to defend himself, but John's free hand prevented him from using the telekinesis. Baldur gritted his teeth in pain. He used aura burst to push the two away as he spoke with outright fury. I will kill you too if it is the last thing I do. Baldur dashed towards John with anger, intending to kill Yuri first. He was going to take her down first, and then John, as Baldur was ready to kill Yuri. He used Heimdall to send John flying. With him distracted, he went after Yuri. She created an ice wall to defend herself as she used ice spikes to block Baldur, but driven by mad rage, he easily destroyed the ice. She had a look of fear as Baldur slammed her with the mace, sending her flying. The blow was strong enough for her to puke. He kept slamming her while John tried to stabilize himself. Ares' aura was on the verge of shattering just as she looked up to see Baldur ready to kill her. I like your parents, Winterflake. Kairi had a look of horror as she had an ice wall to protect herself which she generated. She made the strongest ice wall to defend herself which exhausted the last of her aura. Just as Baldur was ready to eliminate her, Baldur froze. His whole body lost control as he turned his eyeballs around. He looked at a very angry John who slammed him to the nearby tree with his telekinesis. John dashed towards Baldur who tried to quickly grab Heimdall, however John stomped on his left hand, completely breaking it. Ah, shotlock beam. John sent a beam towards him as Baldur was sent flying as he had his clothes tattered and blood coming from his body. John did not stop there. Before he could react, John kicked him in the gut so hard that he felt like puked up. Baldur looked at John as he had aura and unleashed several aura blasts at him, making a lot of explosions. Die! John shouted in pure anger as Yuri watched in worry, with his eye kicking crayons and also watching in concern. However, he turned back to deal. Baldur screamed in pain throughout the entire confrontation. When the dust settled, Baldur was in pain. As he groaned, Yuri soon walked towards him as she spoke in concern. John? John turned around to Yuri and asked, Are you all right? Yuri nodded as he responded, I am fine, John. Just concerned. I am fine, seeing you almost killed. Made something in me, snap. I am sorry. Yuri shook her head and responded, I am glad you are all right. I was almost close to getting seriously injured, though. John nodded as he looked at his fiancée and responded, Very well, shall we end this? Yuri looked at Baldur coldly and responded, Let shall. Alder? Krantz shouted. He tried to help Baldur seeing his state, but Issei was not going to let him happen. He removed his helmet and tried to freeze Issei with his semblance as a purple light glowed on him. But Issei dashed towards him. How? Krantz spoke in horror as Issei spoke. My travels made me a strong person physically and mentally. Your semblance frozen gaze has no effect on me. Issei remembered him even resisting Emerald semblance due to him surviving level 660 SIXS illusions, which were real and false illusions both. He dealt with surviving the Backrooms. He can deal with this member of the Kronos as well. I thought the Kronos were your clan's top dogs, but to me, you are nothing short of a weakling, and I did not even use my semblance against any of you. Issei spoke with a mocking tone as Krantz gritted his teeth, as he kicked crayons in the stomach, making them cough up. He kept slamming him to the ground over and over again as he shattered the last of his aura as he looked at him coldly. I let John will decide your fate. Issei grabbed him by his chest and threw towards Baldur, John, and Yuri turns towards the one who threw it as Issei walked towards them as John spoke with a smile. It was barely anything right. Issei depowered himself as he responded. Indeed, it was easy, they were hardly a problem. Baldur looked at the three with fear, as he spoke. Why you three will regret messing with the clan. The elders will make sure you regret it. Baldur soon smiled as he continued. Why you will never receive the justice you wanted. Funny you mention it, Baldur. John spoke as he walked behind towards the hidden scroll that was present in there. As he spoke with a smile, the video is already live streamed across all of Remnant, and now the whole clan has been disgraced completely. Everyone is watching this video. Elder and Krantz became pale as Issei transformed into his armor to prevent any more ambushes as he turned around to see the girls from his group. As Issei asked, I take the armada has been dealt with? Yes. We made sure to deal with every last one of them, but a certain Emilio Lowe managed to escape. Is he going to be a problem? Valerie asked John, to which he responded, none whatsoever. Anyways, let's end this show. There are a few more people I also want to deal with before we went home. Issei, can you pass me a bottle of liquid pain? I want to make him suffer. Everyone minus Yuri and John became surprised as Issei asked, You sure of this, John? Yes. I want to make these two men suffer, and I want to send a message to the Arcs as well. Issei nodded as he passed 2 bottles of liquid pain, which were red bottles of concentrated liquid. Yuri, freeze their bodies, make sure they only can move their jawbones. Yuri looked at the bottles and asked, What are they? Let's just say we are going to give the agonizing deaths for their crimes. Baldur and Krantz looked at John with fear. As Yuri nodded, they tried to beg, but Yuri froze their entire bodies, excluding their jawbones. They were only able to mouth their words, to which Yuri spoke. Don't beg for mercy, you 2 bastards have brought this on yourselves. John gave 1 bottle to her and asked, You want to do the honors? All you have to do feed and then watch the show, that is all. Eri nodded, she took the bottle. She looked to Baldur and opened the bottle. She then moved his jaw mouth and emptied the contents of the bottle and made Baldur drink it. John did the same to Krantz as well. Just as they started to drink the bottle's contents, they started to feel an itching pain. They couldn't even scream as they looked at Yuri and John or anyone begging for mercy. The first felt burning sensation at point of contact, which was at their throats, which was followed by intense irritation and itchiness of the epidermis. Then it was a gradual rise in internal body temperature, and as the liquid reached the stomach, they felt intense stabbing pain within the stomach, which was resulting from acidic corrosion of stomach lining and intestines, and then it was further stabbing pain spread throughout the entire body, followed up by boiling of blood, rupture of veins, arteries, and internal bleeding. The whole situation lasted for. The others looked at the 2 without empathy or mercy, as they tried to escape their fate but were unable to. They tried to beg for mercy, but soon enough, they couldn't handle it, and died tragically. Baldur and Krantz were dead. It's finally over. Yuri spoke with a breather. As John calmed her down, she gave him a smile in response, as her parents were finally avenged. What now? I still have some things left to do. You all should head back to home. I and Issei have some people to deal with. Yuri shook her head and spoke. No, I have an idea who you want to deal with. Let us all end this debacle with them once and for all. And you girls? Ingvild, Valerie and Summer nodded in agreement. As John and Issei looked at each other and smiled, Sure, let us all go home and end this once and for all. John stopped the live stream and Ingvild flew off to grab Alexandria, who was shocked by what she witnessed, and what John and his friends did to her uncles, as well as on how they ruined their clan's reputation completely. Issei teleported everyone to a compound Jade talked about, where he would be present. Scene change. Arc compound 1:12 a.m. The elders were petrified and fearful as they had an emergency meeting, but just as they were about to do so, there was a massive explosion that had taken place. A greenish-red beam was the last thing they could see before some of them passed out due to the power. One of them, being Mason, asked, What the? Don't tell me that, disgrace. Mason was unable to complete this sentence as all the elders were being choked, including Belize, who knew it was John's doing. He looked at his former nephew in his Ventus armor, along with Issei and Valerie. He threw Alexandria on the ground as Belize rushed towards her. He looked at her and spoke. She is alive. Belize was silent, as he spoke, looking at John. John, what are you going to do? John looked at Belize as he responded. One of the elders in this room is going to be eliminated tonight. This was on request of my grandparents. They wanted him eliminated. Belize was quiet. He did not see John lying, meaning that his grandparents were alive somewhere. Mason then spoke. You lie. Just like you had done in Beacon, and now your actions have tarnished our reputation and… Mason was once again unable to complete as he looked at Belize and spoke angrily. This is what your parents intended for the clan to become. Belize, answer me. Belize looked down, knowing he was right. Zephyria warned him about John retaliating, and this is what happened. As John scanned someone else amongst the group, he could see him trying to escape. This was none other than Will's arc, as John grabbed him by his head and slammed him in the nearby table. Please have mercy. John looked at him coldly as he used his hand to keep slamming him. The leaves did not stop him, while the other elders tried to stop, especially Mason, who used his semblance, but suddenly, divide, 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 divide. The elders felt their strength losing, with Mason losing his armor and looking helplessly at the duo. Sorry, I have no mercy for scum like you. John started to choke him and easily snapped his neck, killing him instantly. John looked at Belize and spoke. I had no intention of killing him. My grandparents wanted him dead. Belize understood this as he did not sense John lying in any way this time, meaning he somehow met his grandparents, and they told him the truth. Just as they entered, the doors burst in, revealing Jackson, who was captured by Ingvild, Summer, and Yuri, as John walked towards him and spoke. Hello, Jackson. Why, you disgrace. I will not. Yuri slammed him in the gut and responded, You will not disrespect my John like that. You need to come up with some creative, cousin. But surely, you won't learn. You were always the annoying one whenever you came to us for visiting. You don't respect anyone but yourself. John slapped him hard on the cheek as Jackson responded with spitting on his face. The others were about to react when John used telekinesis to block it, and it fell to the ground. John proceeded with a kick, slamming Jackson to the ground. Pathetic, really pathetic. I would enjoy killing you, but I want to make this a warning. John grabbed Jackson by the throat and started to choke him as he spoke. Stay away from my girl, Yuri, or I will make sure you meet the same fate as Balder and Krantz. John's words made Jackson nod with fear over and over again. John threw him away as he soon spoke. Goodbye, you won't see me again. Issei and Valerie walked towards him and teleported away. He was not interested in dealing with anyone. Mason went on to help Jackson as he gritted his teeth in anger. They have lost their reputation completely. Belize helps Alexandria out of her constraints as she cried on to her uncle. She was partially responsible for what John had did. Soon enough, the rest of her family had come in as Nicholas, exclaimed Alex. Alex looked at her father as Nicholas and Juniper along with the rest of their family embraced her. Nicholas and Juniper were livid at what John did, while the sisters being equally angry at John's actions. Jean was the angriest as she despised her former brother even more, bound to one day kill him, no matter the cost. However, that was not going to happen since all of Remnant knows what they did, and they have lost any and all respect there. They will now suffer discrimination as John's actions caused the reputation to plummet to nothingness. There was nothing they could do for now, but suffer. There was no way to fix their reputation for now. Scene change. I'm Skip, brought to you by Chibi Issei, trying to find a way out of the infinite curve. 2 days later, Kuoh Park, 10:30 p.m. 2 days have passed since the events that transpired in Remnant, due to which Jade was taken care of by Issei and his friends. As she was still in grief, Issei even stayed with her for much longer as well. Thanks to that, Jade has been getting a little better. Right now, Issei and Jade were on a walk as Issei spoke. So how you are doing? Better than ever. Thanks, Issei. Jade spoke with a smile. Issei would go through any lengths for his comrades, friends, and loved ones. Issei had a small smile in response as he looked away with Jade chuckling at his blushing nature. Anyways, what is your plan for the upcoming raiding game? Jade asked Issei as he responded, Well, I have none for now since it would be weeks when our raiding game matchups would even begin. Issei spoke with a sigh as he thought for a moment. Our main challenge would be Serg. He is pretty much a one-man wrecking crew. Then we have to deal with Sona Citri. Sure, her firepower is bad in her team, but Sona knows how to make tactical decisions. I have faced her, and her major win point was to eliminate me since I was one of Ria's strongest pieces. But despite this, she lost. Jade nodded in understanding as she asked in response, remembering a move that Issei had talked about when he was still a pervert, that is when you use pulling well. Right, yep. As a result, it got banned. But I am pretty sure it was for embarrassing reasons from what my former master told me. A lot of complaints were from the female members of the Citri peerage. That is why my former master banned me from using it after that. Jade sighed in response as she spoke. She seemed to be a lot controlling. Mo. Now that you speak about it, looking back, she actually was controlling, and I actually did little to prevent her control. Then again, a lot of high-class devils are known to be like that. They have a lot of pride in them as well, Jade. Issei continued with a sigh as he continued. One things lead to another, and then everything she had built for went crumbling down. Issei spoke, remembering the brutal defeat Rias had experienced along with her peerage when Issei was not there during the raiding game finals. Jade then added her own words. Yeah, it did, and Saya became the raiding game champion in the aftermath. No wonder she was so desperate to win you back. I'd say that her loss even made her act like that in front of you, remember? Shrugged it off and spoke. Well, it matters not, and she lost it even when I warned them to not fight. They chose this route, and now they are living in the Gremory mansion. Gabe nodded in agreement as she looked around, seeing the park as she spoke. This park brings bad memories, doesn't it? Not anymore. Rainer was never meant to be my girlfriend or anyone's, as a matter of fact. Jade sighed as she spoke. I know, and that woman is the reason why many of my men died. If anything from what our last encounter was, she died a horrible death when Shang Tsung made us fight against Rainer and his group, who were much stronger than when we fought them at level 28. True, and we made sure to deal with the sorcerer after that, Issei added as the couple continued to walk. As she did, her eye turned to something as Issei asked, What's the matter? I sensed something weird. My semblance acted upon something. Jade rushed to the direction and saw an object lying on the ground. She picked it up as she spoke. These seem like some glasses. Jade used her semblance as she could see that these very advanced glasses, something that she was even struggling to manipulate. Jade, are you okay? Why? Yeah, I am fine. Jade calmed down as she continued. These glasses, I have never seen them before. Maybe I should take them back to lab for research. Are you sure? It could be something dangerous. Issei warned her as Jade nodded. I know, but if I am able to crack this with my semblance, we can find out where it came from and what it could do. Alright, but if it is dangerous, we may have to get rid of it. Jade nodded in understanding as he spoke. Let's let Lord Beelzebub and Azazel Sensei know about this. Jade nodded in agreement as the duo headed back to their home. They knew that they can find out about it the next day. Unbeknownst to them, the device they had taken them would change their lives forever. They have taken their first step to open Pandora's box. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.